Hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all, to a brand new episode of Chasing Labels, or Spine Number, rather, if you prefer to refer to it that way. This is Spine Number / episode number 153. And I am your host, Andrew, and we will be getting into all of the, or many of the recent announcements in the world of home physical media in the boutique label realm for the last 2 weeks. And we will be getting into things that I want to add to my collection, things that look interesting to me. Perhaps they will look interesting to you as well. Please excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather. So if my voice sounds a little different, or if I start coughing, if I start sneezing, or if I have to clear my throat a few times, I am a little bit under the weather. I've actually been sick for the last week straight. Started all the way last Monday. It is that time of the year, I guess depending on where you live in the world, but I live in the northeastern United States, so the weather has dipped down into the cooler realm. Not quite seasonably cold, but cold enough to the point where I still get the seasonal sicknesses and illnesses, just colds and sinus issues and all that kinds of stuff. But I am dealing with a little bit of that over the last week or so. So please excuse me for all of that. But like I said, we're once again back here. And before we dive into what's been going on in the world of announcements, I did pick up a few things that I wanted to share with you. I'll be as descriptive as I can for the people over in the audio world. But first up here is something I wanted to get earlier this year. Actually, both of these are things I wanted to get earlier this year, and I'm glad I was still able to, or rather still able to get them with the slipcovers. First up here is the Sam Raimi film Darkman. This is put out by Shout Factory / Scream Factory, and I've actually never owned this movie. I've never owned Sam Raimi's Darkman. I've never actually seen it. I've never seen it. I'm probably going to watch it this week. I may watch it tonight after the podcast episode recording, after this live stream. I'm not quite sure, depending on how I feel. But this is the movie starring Liam Neeson. Frances McDormand's in the film as well. This came out in, when did it come out? 1990? Yes, 1990s. This is the film he did before Army of Darkness, before his third Evil Dead film. Like I said, I've never seen this before. This is the 4K UHD edition put out by Scream / Shout Factory. So I got that. What else do I have here? I decided to take the plunge into the recent James Cameron foray into the 4K UHD realm. Much to my chagrin, and much to the chagrin probably of many other collectors like you and me. But I decided to go with The Abyss. James Cameron's The Abyss for the first time ever. I've never owned this movie. I've never owned it on DVD. I've never owned it on Blu-ray. Obviously, the 4K is here now. It's a movie that I have seen and I do like very much. But this film, along with True Lies and as well as Aliens, garnered much controversy earlier this year because of the way the transfers are. The transfers for The Abyss, True Lies, and Aliens were messed with quite a bit when it came specifically to scrubbing of the grain that was, inherent within the film stock and all that stuff. And people were very upset by how waxy and how degrained it looked. And then it came out that AI was used in order to work on the transfers for these releases. People were not happy about that. I know Terminator just came out, and I hear it looks better than those, but still may have issues, but still looks better. I heard that there's at least film grain in there, as opposed to like True Lies and such, which were scrubbed pretty significantly, unfortunately. But I did hear The Abyss looked at least decent. Like I said, I've never owned it. So for me, this is, first time buy and first time own, and I got to really spruce up my James Cameron section. But yes, I picked up The Abyss, I picked up Darkman. What else did I pick up? Oh, I mentioned this a few weeks ago. The Omen Collection Deluxe Edition from Shout Factory / Scream Factory. This is the box set that has the Omen, Omen 2, The Final Conflict, and then Omen: The Awakening, and then the remake of The Omen, which came out in 2006. That was something that I remember when that came out. I remember seeing trailers for that in the movie theater. I remember seeing TV spots for it. I remember seeing all kinds of promotional work for it. I never saw it. At least I don't believe so. No, I never. All I remember is that Julia Stiles was in it. But I've seen the original Omen, which was done by Richard Donner. I think the success of that movie is why he got the job to do Superman. We all know the history that went on with that. How he was unceremoniously fired from while making Superman 2. They brought on Richard Lester to do it. And then we have the Superman 2 we know of now. But then years and years and years, decades later, they went back to try to assemble the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, which you can find on Blu-ray. And I think you can find it in 4K now, coincidentally, as well as the regular uh, cut of Superman 2, the Richard Lester one. But this box set here, I've always seen in people's collections. The Omen box set from Scream Factory, I've always seen it in people's collections, and I've always wanted it, and I just never got it. And then it miraculously was on Amazon for like $25, $26, and I'm like, I can't really pass upon that now. I've got to get it. Although, like I said when I mentioned it a few weeks ago, watch this get a 4K UHD announcement relatively soon. Just knowing my luck. Just knowing my luck and the luck of collectors, that seems to always be the case. So I picked that up. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. A couple more things here that I got. I did go back to the Criterion Collection sale over at Barnes and Noble. I have to get back there at least one more time before it ends in about a week. I think it actually ends next Monday. Or no, maybe it ends Sunday. Either way, I got to get back there this week because there's still several things I need to get. But when I was there, I picked up Scarface in 4K UHD. This is the Howard Hawks film from 1932. I picked that up. I've owned that movie now several times, and understandably, I had to buy it one more time. So I also picked up Mikey and Nicky. This is the Elaine May film starring Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. I have seen this movie. This is a great, great film. If you've not seen this film, I highly recommend seeing it, whether you buy it on Blu-ray, whether you stream it. It's a really, really good movie. And then, of course, I had to pick this up. This is one of my favorite films ever. And that is Seven Samurai in 4K UHD, put out by Criterion. It's the same exact packaging as the old Blu-ray. There's no real difference here, other than you get it in 4K. It slides out in the digipack form like it's been for many, many years, and you get the 3 discs inside, as well as a pretty thick booklet as well. I think it has all the same special features as the old Blu-ray. I don't think there's anything new with it, unfortunately, but I had the Blu-ray. I needed it in 4K, so I picked that up. As for things I still need to get from the Criterion sale, this week, The Shape of Water is coming out, as well as Paper Moon is coming out. I still need to get Happiness, the Val Lewton double feature of The Seventh Victim, and I forgot the other movie. And I also need to get the Long Good Friday. The Long Good Friday I need to get. So those are still in the works. I have to get them before the sale's up, or forever hold my peace, as the saying goes. Let's see. We got some comments here. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for showing back up. Thanks for coming back over. Let's see. Jeff also says, just finished The Third Man for Noirvember. Nice, Jeff. What did you think of it? Was it a first time watch for you, or had you seen it before? Yeah, I'm curious. Let me know. I think it's a masterpiece, so I'm 100% biased on that. And then Jeff also says Mikey and Nicky is a good film, but awful. They are awful characters. I do agree, and that's kind of what makes the film so interesting. Is you're not really rooting for anyone in it, but what they're going on this kind of tragic journey with an inevitability. I won't say anything else regarding that because I don't want to spoil the plot, but I understand what you're saying. They are awful characters, but in a way that is kind of what film noir does. It gives you these great, great characters. Although I don't know if Mikey and Nicky may be a neo noir. May fit in that realm. Hello, Humboldt Horror Honey says hi. Hello, welcome. Thank you for showing up. Watching from Australia. KN5150 says, "Hi Jeff, watching from Australia. Pretty awesome. We got an international audience. An international audience." But what else did I get? Oh, last but certainly not least here, then we'll get into what we get into here on Chasing Labels. I miraculously was able to find this, and I wasn't aware that it is becoming harder and harder to find, even though it just came out in July. And that is the Studio Canal limited edition 4K UHD release of The Conversation. Uh, this is the Francis Ford Coppola film from, I believe, 1973. And this big deluxe box set from Studio Canal, I know this was highly anticipated when it was announced. When we announced it here on Chasing Labels, we were ecstatic about it. I didn't know that it was becoming so rare to find. Um, I didn't know that it was selling out everywhere and that it was going for like, you know, high prices on eBay already. Luckily, I was able to find it at Orbit DVD. They had one left in stock, and it was in one of their uh, like damaged piles. When they have things that are damaged or slightly damaged, they'll mark it down a little bit and they'll sell it as damaged, but they will show you pictures of like what the damage may or may not be, which is really awesome. And I have to say, I don't know if you guys can see this well here on camera. For those of you watching, this thing is damn near flawless. The only damage is in this top corner here. Very slight indentation up here. It is noticeable. You can see it when you're looking at it directly, but I've seen way worse. I've seen much worse. So to get this, I kind of lucked out. I kind of lucked out because immediately after buying it, it said they were sold out. So I assume I got the last one. The Conversation is a great movie. I know Coppola is known for doing The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, but The Conversation is one of his best movies. Like, it really one of his best movies. And this is a really deluxe set that opens up like this. I haven't even opened it yet myself. And I don't typically get these Studio Canal limited edition sets, but I hear just how wonderful they are. Just opening it up quickly, I know people on the audio can't really appreciate this, but if you want to come over to the YouTube channel, Chasing Labels, you can see all the goodies we've got going on here. Looks like a poster, actually a couple of posters, booklet, and I believe these are probably the. Actually, no, this is a cassette tape of the soundtrack of the movie, which is kind of amazing because you don't see cassette tapes around anymore. Uh, you really don't. The cassette tapes were around when I was a kid. They're slowly making a comeback. You know how vinyl made a comeback? I think cassette tapes may be the next thing to make that format comeback when it comes to music. Um, but yeah, that is The Conversation. So glad I snagged this. I still need to get the Studio Canal versions, editions of The Outsiders. I do want to see if I can get my hands on that. So that is everything getting caught up with that. And we do have some more comments here. Yeah, Humboldt Horror Honey. Yeah, the conversation is a beast. It really is. Like I said, it's my first like Studio Canal limited edition. I didn't know how big of a box it is. I didn't know. Um, I know Steven recently got the Third Man box set. He was showing me that when we reconvened last week to do the Unwatched pile with Noir Vember. He showed me um, the Third Man, and that looks really nice too. When you open it up, it starts playing music. That's kind of a nice touch. Let's see. We got our friend Josie. Josie's here. Let's see. Hello, Andrew. New watches since last Tango and Cash. Let's see. Zoo Warriors from the Magic Mountain from 1983. Alias Jesse James from 1959. Strange Days 95. That's Catherine Bigelow. The Out of Towners from 1970. That's the Jack Lemmon film. What just a series of unfortunate events that he goes through with that in that movie. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, Jewel Robbery from 1932. Underrated movie. I believe that's the movie with William Powell. And I believe that's Kay Francis in there. Super underrated movie. And then the Linguini incident with David Bowie. I remember talking about that here on Chasing Labels because I think MVD put that out recently. And I think that edition came out and we talked about it. Well, I talked about it when it was announced. Underrated movie from the '90s, from '91. So I like I said, and Josie asked me which ones of these I've seen. Well, I've seen Jewel Robbery, I've seen the Linguini Incident, I've seen the Out of Towners. Strange Days, I've actually never seen, as shocking as that may be. The Catherine Bigelow film Strange Days. The reason being is I've been waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray or here. Like that's how I want to watch it. That's how I want to see it, and it just hasn't happened yet. I know there's a UK Blu-ray, but there's no Region A Blu-ray here yet. And I think the one in the UK is edited in some way. I do remember that. Um, let's see other comments here. Humboldt Horror Honey says Orbit is so great. They are. They're kind of my number one go to when it comes to the boutique label world. Not only because they sponsor they sponsor Chasing Labels, but also and not also we've talked with Mark the owner there as well, but also because they have really good stock. They have really good stock. They're doing pre-orders now. They ship out instantly, like the next day. Like I ordered the Conversation last week, like the middle of last week, and I got it already here in time to talk about on Chasing Labels. Like I get it in a few days, and I'm not far away. Like they're in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm in Rhode Island, which is a few hundred miles north. But my stuff gets here very quickly, very very quickly. So whatever system they have going down there is some of the best in the boutique label selling game, in my opinion. And they always get new stocks, and they get stock early too with new releases. And they also always tell you if it comes with the slipcover or not, and they'll tell you if it's damaged. None of these other places tell you if it's damaged. Not even eBay listings tell you details like that. You know, and they're selling you stuff constantly. But yeah, Orbit is great. Excited for all these sales coming up. Yeah, thank you for reminding me, Humboldt. There are a bunch of sales not only currently going on, but will be going on for Black Friday. So a lot of the major places right now started their Black Friday sales a week early. I know Amazon has done it. I think MVD is having a sale right now. Radiance is having a sale on their website. And Scream Shout Factory is having a site-wide sale. I think right now that was announced today. And then, of course, this coming Friday, we get our usual yearly Vinegar Syndrome and Severin. I'll be talking about the hidden Severin titles or the revealed Severin titles that they've had over the last 2 weeks. I've got those in my notes, so we'll be talking about those later on. Um, Jeff says Grindhouse Video has a good selection of scratch and dent items as well. Grindhouse Video is good. When I can't find stuff in the other places, uh, basically my rotation is Orbit, Diabolic, and Grindhouse. Those are the places where I go to find things, and if none of those have something in stock, it becomes increasingly hard to find things. I have to go to perhaps deepdiscount.com or eBay or maybe some other places that I can't think of right now off the top of my head. Yeah, there are almost too many sales, Jeff. I do agree with you. It's a little wild right now. It's a little tough to keep up with. Amazon is seemingly going off crazy like right now, where they're dropping prices on things left and right. But I'm trying to stay within the boutique label realm because a lot of the mainstream stuff, those prices kind of go up and down all the time. You know what I mean? Like the new releases for mainstream movies, those prices kind of go up and down all the time. It's the boutique stuff where you got to take advantage of it when it happens, because those prices typically don't move. That's why the Vinegar Syndrome and Severin sale is so popular every year. The prices on those things really never move. So you really gotta take advantage of it. Oh, I gotta check that place out, Jeff. Jeff says Atomic Movie Store is becoming a favorite of mine. I haven't checked them out. Thank you for the suggestion. I'll definitely give them a look see, because I'm always looking for places that are selling stuff. Um, and yeah, I'm always looking for places that are selling things at good prices and good service and whatnot. Trying to make sure I didn't forget anything else, but no, I didn't. So let's get into what we're all here for. There are some individual things that are not part of some slates. We do have some slates to get into, but let's go through these individual ones very quickly. So I don't talk about this company very often, but sometimes I like to highlight some of their stuff because they're like indie film adjacent, or indie film really, and that's Well Go USA. Wellgo USA has put out a bunch of things over a number of years, but they put out a lot of kind of indie films, even modern indie films. And this is a modern indie film. This is a movie that came out this year, and it's called How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies from 2024. It is scheduled to arrive on the market on December 10th. So a month, well, actually, not even a month, a week, 2 weeks from now. It's a Thai film. It's a film from Thailand, and it's Thailand's official submission as Best International Feature to the Academy Awards. It's a debut feature film by a director called Pat Bunatipat. This is a really, really good movie. After his grandmother is diagnosed with cancer, a scheming young man moves in to care for her. Motivated by a desire to secure her fortune for himself, unfortunately for him, it turns out that winning grandma's favor is no easy feat. So what you got here is kind of a classic story that I think we've seen before, where this young man is trying to make money the easy way by inheriting it, kind of. I guess that's not as easy as you think, but he's trying to do it by cozying up to his not even estranged grandmother. Like they don't really have a great relationship, but they have a relationship, you know what I mean? It's not warm, it's not fuzzy, it's not, particularly close. She's just like one of her several grandchildren. You know what I mean? Kind of like a run of the mill regular relationship that you have with a family member. Nothing really special there. And he finds out that she's dying from cancer, terminal cancer, and he wants to get really close to her so that when she dies, she'll leave him his money, because like that's what happened to like a friend of his that he knew, and he wants that to happen to him. But of course, as the story goes on, he begins to become, closer to his grandmother, become friendlier with her. They strike up a bond with one another. They reminisce about like, life and the old days and life and things like that. And they become closer, and, relationships grow. And, his uh initial thoughts of wanting to do this become strained, if you will. It's a complicated movie in that regard, but it's not something you haven't quite seen before. But it's a really good, heartfelt, genuine film with dealing with genuine emotions. I thought it was very good. I got to see it a few months ago. Very good. So that is How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies, which is coming out December 10th from Wellgo USA. Humboldt Horror Honey says Cauldron announcement on Friday. Yes, I saw that news earlier, Humboldt Horror Honey. I saw that Cauldron is announcing something on Friday. I just talked about the Neon Eagle announcement last time. So I guess we got Neon Eagle about 2 weeks ago, and now we're getting Cauldron now. It's interesting. They're doing it on Black Friday. I'm assuming they're going to announce it and it'll be available to pre-order right away. Because I think Neon Eagle was the same way. I think that's usually how Cauldron works as well. So let's see. That was that film. Now let's move on to a documentary that's coming out called My Name is Alfred Hitchcock. And this is a documentary. It's being put out by Cohen Media Group. And it's a documentary, as you may guess by the title, about Alfred Hitchcock, but it's done by Mark Cousins. And Mark Cousins has done film documentaries for many, many years. He did that one of like the history of film. It's a really long, like 10-part documentary about the history of film, of which he narrates it himself. And he has a very unique, I think he's from Ireland, and he has a very thick Irish voice. So sometimes um it's hard to understand what he's saying, which leads me to believe, why didn't he get somebody else to do the narration? But either way, I know many people have seen it. It's been available to stream for years. It was available to stream on Netflix for the longest time. It was available to stream on Hulu for the longest time. And that was the history of film. But this is My Name is Alfred Hitchcock. This is coming out on Blu-ray from Cohen Media in January 14th. So it says here during the description, a century after Alfred Hitchcock's first film, he remains one of the most influential filmmakers in the history of cinema. But how does his vast body of work and legacy hold up in today's society? Mark Cousins, the award-winning filmmaker behind The Story of Film and Odyssey, that's the one I was just talking about, The Eyes of Orson Welles, and The Storms of Jeremy Thomas, tackles this question and looks at the auteur with a new and radical approach. through the use of his own voice. As Hitchcock rewatches his films, we are taken on an odyssey through his vast career. His vivid silent films, the legendary films of the 1950s and 1960s, and his later works in playful and revealing ways. I am very curious how they structured this documentary. I have not seen it yet. There's a trailer for it here. I may have to track this down and give it a watch because Alfred Hitchcock is one of my favorite directors of all time, like top 5. I've gone back to his work. I've rewatched. I've written about his work in film courses. I've talked about his work here on Chasing Labels so much. I've bought and rebought his movies so many times. I've endlessly fascinated by the work of Alfred Hitchcock. To be honest, I think it was William Friedkin who said this, where I think you can learn everything you need to know about filmmaking by watching Alfred Hitchcock, and that's kind of what I did. I don't know if that was Peter Bogdanovich who said that or William Friedkin. Either way, it's true. By watching Alfred Hitchcock's work and studying Alfred Hitchcock's work, you can learn how to be a filmmaker. That's how indelible I think Alfred Hitchcock is to the history of cinema and to the craft of filmmaking. So that film so this documentary is very fascinating to me. There is some special features on here. There's an alternate trailer with narration by Mark Cousins, audio of Alistair McGowan's voice test, cinema Q&A with Chuck Rose, interview with director Mark Cousins, graphics animation test, and then Mark Cousins introduces Notorious, Rope, and Saboteur. This also leads me to believe, or it leads me to announce that North by Northwest is now out in 4K by Warner Brothers. I heard that the transfer looks very, very good on that. I got to get that disc because I want to upgrade my Blu-ray to that 4K of North by Northwest. It's one of my favorite Hitchcock films of all time. It's top 5 favorite Hitchcock film. I love Cary Grant. It's the closest thing Hitchcock ever got to making a James Bond film, and it's the closest we've ever gotten to Cary Grant being James Bond. By the time the James Bond movies came out a few years later, Alfred Hitchcock, who I think may have been approached to do James Bond, said he had already made it. He already made a James Bond film. It's called North by Northwest. True. Very, very true. It was either he said that or Guillermo del Toro said that. I'm not quite sure. KN5150 says, Umbrella just announced a 4K uncut restoration of Salute to the Jugger. Cool. And then Jeff says, would be great if Criterion released Strangers on a Train. I would jump at the chance of that. So far, Criterion has released, off the top of my head, they've released The 39 Steps. They've released, Lady on a Train? Yeah, Lady on a Train. They've released Notorious, Spellbound, Rebecca. They've released Rebecca. They've released Foreign Correspondent as well. Spellbound they haven't released yet on Blu-ray. I don't recall. Actually, I have the Criterion website up right now because I've got, of course, the new releases, so I can look this up instead of just spinning yarn here. If I do remember correctly, yes, Spellbound still only has an out-of-print DVD release. So I don't know when that's ever going to happen. I would love if that were the case. 39 Steps, The Lady Vanishes, Lady on a Train. What was I thinking? Alfred, again, then Foreign Correspondent, The Lodger, The Man Who Knew Too Much, the one with Peter Lorre from the 1930s, and then, of course, Notorious and Rebecca. I have Notorious, Rebecca, Man Who Knew Too Much, Lady Vanishes, The Lodger. I've got all of these. What am I saying? Except for Spellbound. I don't have Spellbound on the Criterion DVD, but I do have is it a Fox/MGM Blu-ray of it? It's one of those things. Thank you, Jeff. It was The Lady Vanishes. I'm thinking Lady on a Train. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. Lifeboat would be nice as well. I know Kino has put out a Blu-ray of Lifeboat. And so I think the license would have to lapse from them in order for Criterion to pick it up. But Lifeboat's an underrated movie. I've got to do a video of all my Hitchcock films that I have in my Hitchcock section. I'm working on revamping it right now, and maybe after I'm done revamping my Hitchcock section, that's when I'll do a video of it. Because basically I'm trying to upgrade all the Blu-rays to the 4Ks. That's the revamping. And I still got to get some of his early work from the 1930s and 1920s. We just got that BFI set that was just announced, and we've gotten sets. We've gotten sets or editions from Kino from some of his early stuff as well that I don't have, like Murder and Blackmail, and there's a whole uh like like early like British Hitchcock set as well. But the BFI set looks very all encompassing. So I may wait till that comes out and see what the word is about it. I know we spent a little bit of time talking about it on a previous episode. But what was I talking about? Oh yes, the Alfred Hitchcock documentary. My Name is Alfred Hitchcock, coming out January 14th from the Cohen Media Group. And then the last one here in terms of individual releases that we'll get into is Filmmasters is putting out a movie called Emperor Jones. And this is a movie, I think, from 1933. Yes, 1933. It's it says Filmmasters is preparing a Blu-ray release of Dudley Murphy's The Emperor Jones from 1933, starring Paul Robeson, and the release is expected to arrive on the market early next year. So we don't have a date yet. We do not have a date for Emperor Jones. Description: the murderous Brutus Jones escapes from jail and bluffs his way to becoming the emperor of a Caribbean island. Based on Eugene O'Neill's expressionistic play, the film stars Paul Robeson in the role he played on the Broadway stage. Brutus Jones is an unforgettable character, and the Emperor Jones is an American classic. First time I'm hearing about the movie, so I'm going to be glad to discovering it, along with probably many. So Filmmasters is putting this out in a limited edition. Looks like it has a slipcover, and I think I've got one Filmmasters release here next to me, and that is The Terror, the Roger Corman film The Terror, with also The Little Shop of Horrors. I just have this next to me all of the time. I haven't put this on my shelf yet, but this is the only Filmmasters release I have, and I've got to get some more of their stuff. I just keep forgetting I've got to get it. But I do really love the original The Little Shop of Horrors, the Roger Corman one. I think it's really, really, really good and cool. And of course, I like the musical from the 80s as well, which I still need to get, coincidentally. So that is The Emperor Jones, put out by Filmmasters sometime next year. Let's see. Let's move over to the slates now. Let's go to the slates. So, first slate I think I want to get into here is Indicator. Let's go over to Indicator. Our buddies over at Indicator are putting out a 4-film slate, and these are the films I think from are these from February? Probably should have looked this up. Yes, February. These are the February releases. So we've got 4 films. These are all UK Region B releases. None of these are Region A, so you will need a region-free player to play these. And they're deeper catalog titles from Paramount and Columbia. So we've got Now and Forever, Peter Ibbetson, Harriet Craig, and Queen Bee. Harriet Craig and Queen Bee both star Joan Crawford. For those of you who are big Joan Crawford fans, you may want to make note of that. You know, some catalog titles from her filmography. Joan Crawford being one of the best actresses of all time. I don't think that's up for debate. These first 2 films both star Gary Cooper, Now and Forever, and Peter Ibbetson. So let's get into Now and Forever. Now and Forever stars Gary Cooper, Carol Lombard, and Shirley Temple. Directed by Henry Hathaway, not doing a Western this time. Henry Hathaway doing a kind of a family-esque drama from, when did this come out? 1934. 1934. And this is a Paramount release, or Paramount film. So Jerry, who is Gary Cooper, and Tony Carol Lombard, are a pair of small-time crooks who are swindling their way around the world. When they meet Jerry's estranged daughter, Penny, portrayed by Shirley Temple, they resolve to go straight to secure her future, but find that making an honest living isn't easy. So, yeah, that's what happens in this movie, is that Gary Cooper is kind of a deadbeat dad, who's had a daughter that he's never really met, and just happens to be, Shirley Temple. He's initially he's kind of a devious scumbag of a guy. He really is. They say he's a small-time crook, but he's a con man. He's a swindler. He takes advantage of people. He, passes phony checks. He does all this kind of nefarious things. And one of the most nefarious things that he's going to do is, I believe that his, I think it's his brother-in-law, or his wife's family. They want to adopt the little girl, and they of course need his permission to do it. They need him to sign over the papers and all that kind of stuff, and he agrees to do it if they pay him. So he goes to, sign over these papers and whatnot, but he ends up meeting this girl, and it's Shirley Temple. If you know anything about Shirley Temple, when she was on screen, she was so charming and lovable and just full of life, and she would just win your heart over. And of course, she wins him over instantly, and he decides he's not going to sign her over to the relatives, and he's going to raise her himself. But he decides that he's going to do it along with his girlfriend, Carol Lombard. And he, of course, has to go straight. He has to get a job. He's got to be on, good behavior. He can't be living the life he used to live because he's got responsibilities now. But of course, old habits die hard, and he just can't quite stay straight, and it creates complications. It creates complications. It's a charming film. It's a very charming film. Shirley Temple's great in it. Gary Cooper, I think, is really good in it. Carol Lombard's really good in it. Uh, you have a great cast and a kind of a charm and a really charming, heartwarming movie. But it's definitely it's worth a watch if you like all these people in it. So that is Now and Forever. Uh See, Jeff, yeah, you mentioned this. I don't know if Betty Davis would agree about Joan Crawford. I'm only tangentially aware that there is two different like fandom factions right now of Betty Davis fans and Joan Crawford fans. Um, is it wrong that I'm kind of on both sides? Where I where I'm fans of both Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, where I think they're both amazing actresses and both some of the best actresses we've ever seen on screen at any given point in their careers. I know there was a whole rivalry between the two. I saw Feud. I've read up on it. I've seen the documentaries and seen people talk about it. But I never like picking a side just because I think they're both so great. There's been some performances by both that I've seen that I'm like, these are some of the best performances I've ever witnessed. Especially Betty Davis. Betty Davis in the 30s, I thought was an untouchable actress. She's so good in some of the films she did in the 30s. Oh yeah, Jeff. Yeah, I know that they definitely had a rivalry. Like I said, they had a notorious rivalry. Um, a notorious rivalry that like I said, it spurned documentaries and gossip and rumors and all kinds of stuff and movies and TV shows, all kinds of things. Um, I'm well aware of that. So, as I was saying, that is Now and Forever. Let me go back to Peter Ibbetson. Peter Ibbetson also stars Gary Cooper. This stars Gary Cooper, Ida Lupino's in the film, John Halliday, Douglas Dumbrille, and this is also a Paramount film. This is also directed by Henry Hathaway. This is from 1935, the very next year. And so it says, decades after they were separated, architect Peter Ibbetson and his childhood sweetheart, Mary, are reconnected when her husband hires Ibbetson to design a building. The relationship between the pair is rekindled with until Ibbetson acts. Well, I'm not gonna say the rest of this. Da, da, da. This is kind of spoilerish. So needless to say, this movie is told in 3 acts. You've got the childhood relationship of these 2 characters. Gary Cooper and Anne Harding are the 2 main principal, adult actors in this. But as children, they were childhood friends, uh, very, very close to one another. And then what happens is, I think Gary Cooper's mother passes away, and he is forced to go live with his uncle in England, so far away from wherever he was living before, which I think was Paris. And so he grows up in England, and you flash forward 20 years, and he's now an architect, and the young girl's lived her life, and she's gotten married and all that kind of stuff. And he just so happens to be hired by her husband to, I think, do something at their home. I think to redesign like the stables for the horses or something and build it and whatnot. And they slowly end up like kind of like recognizing each other. Like there's something familiar that they find in each other. And lo and behold, that they knew each other as children. So they rekindle this relationship, much to the husband's chagrin, mind you. Much to his chagrin. He is not happy about this situation going on here. And circumstances then happen, and the third act of this film becomes a rather different movie, becomes something like, um, like A Matter of Life and Death, the Michael Pollan, Emmerich Pressburger film. It becomes something ethereal, becomes something spiritual, becomes something elevated to a romance on a different plane and on a different level. And I'm being very ambiguous about it because I don't want to spoil anything of the plot because it does take a harsh left turn in tone and structure and just plot in general. And it becomes something I was not expecting at all, which is nice. For a movie that was kind of, being rather straightforward in its plot, as I was just suggesting it is, to take a left turn, is rather, bold, and I rather enjoyed it. I rather liked it. So that is Peter Ibbetson. We're getting an audio commentary with Adrian Martin, our buddy Adrian Martin, who's been on Chasing Labels here before. And then we got Jeff Andrew on Peter Ibbetson. The author and programmer explores the themes, impact, and making of the film. The Campbell Playhouse, Peter Ibbetson from 1939. It's a radio play adaptation of the Georges du Maurier's novel starring Orson Welles and Helen Hayes. Hey now. We got a Larry Karaszewski trailer commentary. We've had Larry Karaszewski here on Chasing Labels before. That's awesome to see him do that. And then, of course, there's a booklet here with essays and such. Yeah, these are all Region B locked. I want to go back to Now and Forever and see the special features. So Now and Forever has an audio commentary with film historian Pamela Hutchinson, Christina Newland on Shirley Temple, and I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. Of course, there's a booklet with writings and such. So let's move on over to the two Joan Crawford films, and we have Harriet Craig, and this is directed by oh boy. Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, produced by William Dozier. This is a Columbia film. And this came out in 1950. So this is right in kind of the prime of Joan Crawford. I consider the prime of Joan Crawford to be the 40s and into the 50s. That seems about accurate to me. So from director Richard Sherman comes the classic drama Harriet Craig, starring Joan Crawford and Wendell Corey. Manipulative and possessive Harriet, who is portrayed by Joan Crawford, controls every aspect of the lives of her husband, Walter, who's Wendell Corey, and cousin Claire, and schemes to destroy their chances of happiness. However, when they become aware of her treachery, her world begins to fall apart. Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning play, Craig's Wife by George Kelly, Harriet Craig boasts one of Joan Crawford's most devastating performances. There's an audio commentary here with critics and writers Glenn Canary and Farron Smith Neame. Liz Lankman on Harriet Craig, the academic and film historian, discusses the making of the film and its place in Joan Crawford's career. That's fascinating. I'm really curious to see where it's kind of considered in Joan Crawford's career. The Campbell Playhouse, Craig's Wife, subsequent radio adaptation of the play, starring Orson Welles and Anne Harding. Hey now. In a limited edition booklet with essays. Region B Locked. This is a good film. Very melodramatic, very serious. Joan Crawford plays cold, shrill, manipulative very, very well. Very well. And she is very much that in this movie. Yeah, it's a good, like, kind of a powerful powerhouse performance by Joan Crawford in this movie. I highly recommend it. I very much enjoyed that film a lot. So let me actually bring up my letterbox because I need to reference my own takes on these things. It shows you that control, manipulation, always trying to get your way can blind you to the perils and can blind you to what that effect has on others. And it can lead to destroying the lives of others, whether you meant to do it or not. You know what I mean? It shows you how destructive you can be. And that's very contemporary because I think we see a lot of that now, where we see a lot of people who are very unaware of the effect they have on others and specifically negative effects they have on others. It's something that's consistent within our world. But let me move on to the next Joan Crawford film. I'm actually super excited to get more Joan Crawford on Blu-ray because I need to get more of her stuff. So we have Queen Bee. So, the letterbox description is a little more descriptive. A devilish southern woman married to a man who despises her manages to manipulate those around her under the guise of being kind. But when her sister in law is engaged to be married to the woman's former lover, and her husband starts up an affair with her cousin, visiting from New York, things start to go awry, and she gets a plan. She sets a plan to destroy it all. Once again, you've got Joan Crawford in a very dramatic, powerful, manipulative role here where there just seems to be more balls juggling in the air at this point. You've got a strained like non-existent relationship with a husband. You've got a sister-in-law who is in a relationship with your ex-lover that you still have feelings for. You've got a cousin who has just arrived on the scene, is thrown into this absolute political family dramatic mess, and yeah, chaos just ensues. Chaos just ensues. It's inevitable. You can't help it. And the one pulling the strings behind all of this is Joan Crawford's character again. And once again, being this obsessive, being this uh unaware of what you're doing and how it's affecting people is destructive. It's destructive in many ways, and that's what's going on in this movie. This movie's directed by Ronald McDougall, came out in 1955, so a few more years after the previous film that we were just talking about, Harriet Craig, but still Joan Crawford at the top of her game, delivering a really good performance. Let's see what we have for special features for this one. Yeah, we have an audio commentary with film critic David Jenkins. Liz Lankman on Queen Bee. The academic and film historian discusses the making of the film and its place within Joan Crawford's career. Nathaniel Morris on Jean Louise. The film historian and curator explores the career of iconic Hollywood costume designer with a special focus on his work at Columbia Pictures from 1944 to 1960, and that's it. That's it. There's image galleries in these on these as well, but those are nice. But I don't know if we need to be mentioning that. We got a limited edition booklet with essay by Imogen Sarah Smith. This is Region B locked as well. Oh, I'm on Letterboxd. Thing is, Chasing Labels on Letterboxd. There's not an official Chasing Labels Letterboxd account, but I'm on Letterboxd, like myself, and so is Steven. So I'm on Letterboxd as Cabzilla06. That's my name on Letterboxd. If anybody's interested in following me, you will get spoiled as to what movies I'll be talking about here on Chasing Labels because I log everything I watch for the show and log everything I watch for myself. So little spoiler alert, I guess. Humboldt Horror Honey says, great cover for Queen Bee. I do agree. The artwork on these the indicator releases are always gorgeous. I think they typically use the original poster art, right? Like I think that's mostly what they use, or pretty close to it. I'm trying to see if I have any indicator stuff around me. I've got my Jean Roland stuff over there. Uh, I don't think I've got any around me. I had Secret Ceremony, but I moved it over there. But yeah, you're right. I love their cover art. It's classic, especially for older films. I use the cover art, use the theatrical posters. They look so good, and they look so good to this day. It's a heck of a lot better than what I see from mainstream stuff with the Photoshop just awfulness with the misproportioned heads and all this kind of stuff. Oh, that stuff looks so bad. I don't know much about graphic design or Photoshop or any of that stuff. We've had people come on here that do that for a living. Our friend Scott Saslow, as well as Drusilla. Yeah, it's like there are people out there who do that for a living who are very good at it. Hire them because whatever you're doing is not going so well. No, thank you, KN5150. You just followed me on Letterboxd. Yeah, I got a new follower. My Letterboxd is Cabzilla06. There's a much older picture of me on there. I've got to update that. That picture is, oh goodness, that may be from like 2011. Like it's that old. Like, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for following me as well. Um, yeah, you'll just notice the just massive amounts of movies I watch. For those of you keeping count at home, I so far this year I've logged 694 movies, and there's what 1 month to go. 1 month to go. It's the great final stretch in the marathon to see how many movies I can watch in 1 year. So we'll see what it tallies up with at the end of it all. So that was it for Indicator. Let's move on now to Imprint. Why not? That's just the next tab that pops up. We go from Indicator to Imprint. Keep all the eyes in a row. Imprint is the February releases. I don't know why, but for some reason on Blu-ray.com it says one of these is coming out tomorrow. I no idea why that's the case. But yeah, these are the February releases. Here we go. We have Lipstick from 1976, The Betsy from 1978, Play It Again Sam from 1972, Lifeguard from 1976, The Liberation of L.B. Jones from 1970, and Swashbuckler from 1976. All of these films are from the 1970s. Just notice that right now. And these films very much vary in terms of genre. Lipstick is a movie we've actually already talked about here on Chasing Labels, because back in, oh goodness, was it 2021? Lipstick had a Blu-ray release put out, actually 2022. February of 2022, Lipstick was released by Shout Factory. We had talked about it back then. So we have talked about this movie before, but we'll give it another look-see here. So, Lipstick from 1976, beloved supermodel and granddaughter of writer Ernest Hemingway, Margot Hemingway stars in this controversial revenge thriller, that's all they give you here. Includes a brand new audio commentary by film critic and author Alexandra Helen Nicholas and archival features. I think I'm going to go over to the Imprint website to get a better thing in there. They used to have such great detailed press announcements over on Blu-ray.com for Imprint, like lovely graphics and all kinds of stuff and details. And then now we've got nothing. We've got nothing. So I'm gonna go over here so I can give you guys some actual information. But Lipstick is a revenge thriller film from the 1970s, and it's a movie that I remember liking okay. It's definitely a complex, complicated film because you're dealing with a rape revenge film. I know Alexandra Helen Nicholas, I believe, wrote a whole book about those types of films. I think that's why she has a special feature on here. And yeah, some other special features. There's a new audio commentary by Alexandra Helen Nicholas. There's another audio commentary with Justin Kurzweil and Amanda Reyes. That's really good. Interview with actor Chris Sarandon. Interview with actress Marielle Hemingway. Interview with actor Perry King. And I think that's it in terms of special features. So, top fashion model seeks justice after getting sexually assaulted by her teenage sister's obsessive music teacher. That's the movie. This is Imprint collection number 382. My goodness, we're moving right along. We are moving right along. So that's coming out in February. Then we've got The Betsy. The Betsy I unfortunately did not get to watch, so I don't have much to say about that movie. But I can give you a description here. It says, best-selling American author Harold Robbins' novel comes to life in this sizzling drama, directed by Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Daniel Petrie, who directed A Raisin in the Sun, which has a Criterion release. That's the one with Sidney Poitier. Featuring an all-star cast, including Laurence Olivier, Robert Duvall, Catherine Ross, Tommy Lee Jones, and Jane Alexander, with the score by the genius composer behind the early James Bond films, John Barry. The aging, retired founder of an auto giant comes out of retirement to try to develop a safe, fuel-efficient car. These leaving much to be desired in terms of synopses here. So the letterbox description is thus. Ruthless patriarch Lauren hires race car driver Angelo to build a more efficient vehicle against the wishes of his grandson. But things get even messier when Angelo romances two women in Lauren's life, his great-granddaughter and his mistress. That's more of a description. There we go. Like I said, directed by Daniel Petrie. And let's see what do we got for features here. It just says new audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger and Nathaniel Thompson. And then archival interview with Harold Robbins. That is it. Let's see. Play It Again, Sam. Now, this is a movie I haven't seen in probably a dozen years. It's a movie starring Woody Allen, not directed by Woody Allen, but it feels like a Woody Allen film. I don't know how to really explain it. So, and it's the first film that he collaborated on with Diane Keaton. Woody Allen and Diane Keaton long-term collaboration began here, a comedy following a recently divorced film critic who sees apparitions of Humphrey Bogart's Casablanca character, Rick Blaine. Based on Allen's hit Broadway play of the same name, the film adaptation was helmed by Academy Award-nominated director Herbert Ross, who directed The Turning Point, featuring a supporting cast of Tony Roberts, Jerry Lacey, and Susan Ansbach. New audio commentary by film critic and author Martin Conterio. Robert B. Wide's 2011 feature documentary, Woody Allen, a documentary. I've seen that. That was streaming on Netflix for a while. There was a DVD release of that. I remember that. I remember that significantly. Bonus documentary extras: The New Yorker, The Woody Allen in Idaho, 12 Questions, Nettie, Back to Brooklyn, Woody Allen's favorite actor, and then director interview. Oh, yeah. Less gray chin hairs as well. Yeah, Jeff, that was definitely 2011, 2012. I just started getting these about 10 years ago. They started showing up. Like, I had one white hair, and then another one showed up, and another one showed up, and then gray hair showed up, etc., etc. I don't know. Some people get them earlier in life, I guess, earlier. I'm only 37 now. I started getting them in my late 20s. So it makes me distinguished. I always tell people I'm going for that Gandalf look. You know, either Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White. Either way, I'm a wizard, so I win. You know, I, I'm I'm winning. I'm magic. I'm magic like that. But yeah, this is Play It Again, Sam. I have this on DVD somewhere. I think I have it maybe on a stack of DVDs over there. I think maybe I bought it at a used DVD store many, many moons ago when they were going out of business. And I've just had it in my collection ever since. I've only watched it once. And it's very much the Woody Allen character. Like I said, he's comparing himself to like Humphrey Bogart and Rick Blaine from Casablanca. And that's kind of like his guiding, his like guardian, like his invisible friend or whatever that's kind of guiding him through life, guiding him through like a breakup, I think is what's going on. That seems to be a lot of what Woody Allen's films are about in the 1970s. Like relationships and couples like falling in and out of love and breaking up and getting back together and marriages disintegrating and all this kind of stuff. To be honest, a lot of Woody Allen's films throughout his entire career are about those things. Let's see. Now we move on. Oh, Lifeguard I've already talked about. Lifeguard I talked about like 2 episodes ago. This movie's getting a Fun City edition release in February. So this is coming out already, and I've already talked about it. This is the movie starring Sam Elliott, and Sam Elliott is the title character. He is a lifeguard, and this is a younger Sam Elliott. By younger, I mean like he's in his 30s, I think, in this film, and it's about him kind of at the crossroads in life of still living out his youth and doing things that he was doing when he was younger, but perhaps it is time for him to live a more adult life. And he's at the crossroads of what he wants to do with that. He's still a lifeguard at the same beach that he was a lifeguard at when he was younger. He still has the same job in the same place, doing the same thing. And he goes to a school reunion and he sees that all of his past friends and people around his age have all gone on to live relatively normal lives with careers and families and marriages and divorces and whatnot, and he's wondering whether he should pursue that more traditional life or stay on the path that he's on, where he's relatively content about how he's living his life, really. So it's him about going through that existential journey and the complications behind that. It's a really good movie. I thought it was really, really good. And it was great to see Sam Elliott kind of explore that type of character. And like I said, it's coming out. There's a Fun City edition of this coming out in February. And then there's also this edition here being put out by Imprint. For this Imprint edition, there's a new audio commentary by film historian Scout Tafoya and Daniel Kramer. And this is coming from a new 4K scan. I'm not sure what the special features are for the Fun City edition yet. I don't think they've announced what those special features yet, because I was on their website the other day looking at, trying to catch up on certain editions that I don't have. And I was looking to see what the special features were for this, and I didn't see any. So I don't know what the comparison is going to be. But that is The Lifeguard. I definitely recommend getting either edition. Because it's a good movie. Watch it any way you can. Next is The Liberation of L.B. Jones. This is the film from 1970. This is a film that I have never seen before, but I had vague recollection of, and it is a good movie. It's a worldwide first on Blu-ray. It says here this controversial crime drama rose to number one at the U.S. box office. The final film of the legendary Academy Award-winning director behind Ben-Hur. This is a William Wyler film. This is William Wyler's last film, so that makes it significant. That makes it significant and kind of a must-get for me. Based on true events and the novel. And the novel by Jesse Hill Ford. This film stars critically acclaimed actors Roscoe Lee Brown, Lee J. Cobb, Lola Falena, nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance. A young lawyer and his wife moved to Tennessee to work in his uncle Oman's law firm, Lee J. Cobb. Under his nephew's pressure, Oman Hedgepath agrees to represent L.B. Jones, a wealthy black undertaker who intends to divorce his wife for adultery with a white policeman. So, right away, we have racial tension. It's Tennessee. It's the South. There's racial tension there almost immediately. It's in the aftermath of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement obviously is still going on at the time, just because things are always contentious down there. They're contentious down there to this day. In this entire country, they're contentious, but specifically at that time. So you've got this L.B. Jones character who is divorcing his wife because she's cheating on him with the white policeman. So you already have, police in small town. So you're dealing with police corruption, you're dealing with racism, you're dealing with all these big themes in there. And it's a complex, complicated film that could have been taken right out of today. It is that level of contemporary type of stuff what we're dealing with, and it's an interesting movie that doesn't give you answers to a lot of these big questions, because there frankly isn't good answers to a lot of these big questions when it comes to police corruption, when it comes to racism, when it comes to small town southern racism and things like that. There's no answers to this day, really, and this movie explores a lot of those things. There's a young Yaphet Kotto is in the film as well. That was a nice little surprise. Good movie, really good movie. Like I said, it plays like a play. It very much feels like a companion piece to In the Heat of the Night. So if you like the movie In the Heat of the Night, this movie will give you the same type of vibe to it. So that is The Liberation of L.B. Jones, directed by William Wyler. No special features here listed yet, unfortunately. Hopefully there's something. So last but certainly not least is Swashbuckler from 1976, starring the one and only Robert Shaw as a pirate. But not only is Robert Shaw in this film, you've got James Earl Jones, Peter Boyle, Beau Bridges, and Angelica Houston. A pirate and a hot-tempered noblewoman join forces to protect Jamaica from a tyrant. Man, they're really skimping on these synopses here on Imprint.com. So, this takes place around 1718 in the Caribbean. Peter Boyle is this tyrant governor of Jamaica, of all places. And he is just a complete and utter scumbag, asshole, tyrant guy. And he's created a lot of enemies because he's that way. Specifically, chief among them is Robert Shaw's character of Ned Lynch, who is a pirate, and he ends up joining forces with a woman who is whose family has been locked up and is about to be executed, and she wants Robert Shaw's help in rescuing them or fighting against the Peter Boyle governor character. And they end up having initially a super contentious relationship, but of course it becomes softer, and they start developing a romance over time, the usual type of stuff you've seen. What is interesting about this movie is it reminds me of like a 1930s, 1940s Errol Flynn film. It reminds me of like Captain Blood or something like The Adventures of Robin Hood. It reminds me of something like that, where as opposed to like a film from 1976. This is post Jaws Robert Shaw. doing this type of throwback pirate movie. I don't know if pirate movies were trying to make a resurgence at the time in the 1970s, or if just seagoing movies were trying to make a resurgence in the 1970s. But either way, you've got Robert Shaw in this really charismatic Errol Flynn-esque role, and he's actually very good in it. Everyone's actually very good in it. By very good, I mean like they're playing the roles that they're supposed to play. It's kind of ridiculous to see Peter Boyle in this absurd early 18th century wig, like being this tyrant governor. Like it looks funny, it sounds funny, it is kind of funny. Robert Shaw is swinging around from ropes and stuff, and he's dueling with rapiers and things like that. And it just seems so interesting and so out of its time. A rather surreal viewing experience, if you must. So if you like kind of late career Robert Shaw, because this was one of his later films. He passed away, unfortunately, in 1978, and this film came out in 1976. So you know it's one of his last films. I didn't realize how young Robert Shaw was when he passed away. He passed away at 51, which is relatively young. So that means that he was in his 40s in Jaws, and he just seems so much older to me. It's like I always viewed Robert Shaw in Jaws as being much older than someone in his 40s. You know what I mean? Maybe it was all that, the hard living he did and all that kind of stuff. But it does age you. It does age you. But I always felt like he was an older character than he actually was in real life. I guess that's what good acting is too. But yeah, this is the movie Swashbuckler. And let's see what we have for a special feature. Just an audio commentary by film historian Howard S. Berger. That is it for Imprint. So we will now go over to, I think we'll go over to Umbrella. Umbrella seems like a good place to go right now. Umbrella only had 3 announcements. The movie Hardware, the movie Suburban Mayhem, and the movie The Moogai. So I got to see 2 out of 3 of these. So Hardware is getting a 4K UHD release, and Suburban Mayhem and the Moogai are only Blu-ray releases. So, Hardware, set in a nuclear-scarred landscape where mankind struggles to survive, a zone tripper, who is Dylan McDermott, a very young Dylan McDermott in this film, brings home a battered cyborg skull for his metal sculptor girlfriend, who is portrayed by Stacey Travis. But this steel scrap contains the brain of the Mark 13, the military's most ferocious biomechanical combat droid. It is cunning, cruel, and can reassemble itself. Tonight, it is reborn and no flesh shall be spared. So, a killer robot movie. That's what we have on our hands here. And this movie was directed by Richard Stanley, came out in, when did this come out? 1990. And it's very much like Terminator. It's kind of like Terminator, but with a much lower budget. And if you know this, the original Terminator film was not a high-budgeted film. Terminator 2 was, Terminator 3, and then subsequent films after that. Jeff says, I think Force 10 from Navarone was his final film. I was actually looking to see what his final film was, and that was indeed one of his final films, was Force 10 from Navarone. And then KN5150, I do their live announcements on my YouTube channel. Awesome. Yeah, I see a lot of people do that too. I usually wait, obviously, until the Chasing Labels time to talk about them. On our Facebook page, I do post on there. We have a Facebook group called Chasing Labels, where I do post when things are announced. Certain things, not everything, but of course. But I posted about like Eureka, which we're going to talk about probably next, and then of course Umbrella and Imprint I talk about on there to inform people that these are coming out and to, get prepared for them. We're fortunate enough to have friends in Australia who cover these releases as well. So if they have Facebook groups, there's an Umbrella group, there's an Imprint group. So that's pretty awesome. But yeah, we've actually been very fortunate enough to have, was it Ari Harrison? I have to go back to that said Facebook group and actually look. Yeah, Ari Harrison, the GM from Umbrella. We've had him here on Chasing Labels. Chasing Labels episode number 98, which I think was when we were just doing audio only ones. or maybe not. We may have it here, and if not, it'll be on our podcast feed of Ari Harrison, the GM from Umbrella, and he was nice enough to come on here and talk about Umbrella and all that kind of stuff. What they got going out there, what their philosophy is when it comes to the movies that they pick up and all that kind of stuff. Oh, there we go. Never mind. Uh, I KN5150 says I admin the Umbrella fan page. Well, then you know. then you know already. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, uh, I'm just speaking to the choir, as they say, preaching to the choir. So back to what I was saying before I make more of a fool of myself. But yeah, we had Ari Harrison here on Chasing Labels on episode number 98 on our pod. It's probably on our podcast feed because I don't think we were doing the videos here on YouTube at that time. Super nice guy. I love what they've been doing over there. I love how they've changed things up, and they've become way more super focused and streamlined and all that kinds of stuff. Speaking of streamlined, here we've got a Terminator-esque film in hardware, and this is the 4K UHD release of that. It's a new HDR 4K remaster by Umbrella themselves. New commentary by director Richard Stanley. Looks like there's a archive audio commentary here by Richard Stanley. No flesh shall be spared. The making of hardware. New interview with producer Stephen Woolley. New hardware. Richard Stanley's bitter message of hopeless grief. A video essay by Bryn Tilley. A new original storyboard featurette. Deleted and extended scenes of Richard Stanley on Hardware 2. Hardware promo videos with Iggy Pop and Lemmy. That's awesome how Lemmy showed up in this and Iggy Pop showed up in this randomly. That was so damn cool. And then we've got original hardware promo video, Rites of Passage, 1983 short film, Incidents in an Expanding Universe, 1985 short film, The Voice of the Moon, a 1990 documentary, The Sea of Perdition, a 2006 short film. A loaded set here, coming out March 5th. And of course, on top of that, they've got their collector's edition version, which has their 250-page hardback book, 100-page softbound book, custom designed rigid slipcase, 8 art cards, and reversible poster. And that's a limited numbered release. We all know they typically put out 2 versions of most of their stuff, but that's going to be a massive release from them. I know recently they just put out their release of Caligula, which I saw many people getting about a month ago. I think sometime last month or this month rather. I don't know. Everything seems to run together, and that set looked massive, and just fantastic. So that's really awesome. Where was I? Oh yes. So that is the movie Hardware. If you want like a Terminator-esque film, but even lower budgeted, that's kind of what this movie is. And it's an interesting movie. It really is. I think it's sci-fi, it's dystopian. It's something that feels like a remnant from the 1980s. And I feel like that happens a lot when it comes to this hangover that seems to happen from decade to decade, where when the 1980s transition from the 80s to the 90s, there's always that period of a hangover period where you still see the influences from that previous decade kind of hanging on, whether it be in fashion, whether it be in music, whether it be in movies or TV or politics or whatever. There's always a hangover there, and I feel like this is one of those types of movies where that it's kind of a hangover from the 80s. Next up here is a movie called Suburban Mayhem, which I watched last night. It's a movie from 2006. Pitch black suburban comedy, Suburban Mayhem features breakout performances from Michael Dorman and Mia Wasikowski. That's who that was. Holy heck. I was watching this movie last night and I'm like, that looks like Mia Wasikowski. But this may be too early for that to be Mia Wasikowski, but it was. I was right. Awesome. Vindication. This movie is packed to the rafters with bogans, burnouts, and bourbon penders. Nominated for 12 AFI awards and winning 3, including Best Score for composer Mick Harvey, This critically acclaimed portrait of youth on the loose infiltrates the bleak and bizarre world of sex, drugs, lies, and muscle cars in the otherwise mundane outskirts of society. Kind of. The movie isn't quite that profound. It's not quite that cool. But here's the rest of the description. Katrina does what she wants, when she wants. Manicured and manipulative, the teenage mother exists in a world defined by petty crime, seduction, sex, fast cars, and suburban mayhem. With her beloved brother Danny in prison for murder and John, her father, concerned about Katrina neglecting her baby, it's time for the 19-year-old to do something. Can you really get away with murder? Question mark. So this release has a new interview with director Paul Goldman, new interview with composer Mick Harvey, a new interview with producer Lean Churchill Brown, new interview with screenwriter Alice Bell, audio commentary with director Paul Goldman, producer Lee Churchill Brown, and screenwriter Alice Bell. The A through Z of Suburban Mayhem featurette. What is this film about? Cast and crew interviews, blooper reel, deleted scene, The Receptionist stop mockumentary, a new Suburban Mayhem soundtrack composed by Mick Harvey, coming out March 5th as well. This movie is interesting. It's interesting because it's a time capsule of a film of the mid 2000s in many ways when it comes to the music, the fashion, the slang terminology, just the world in which the mid 2000s existed in. Really is in this movie. And the fact that it's people in kind of their late teens, mostly late teens, maybe early 20s, is fascinating as well. Because in 2006, I was 19. I knew what that world was at that time. And this movie kind of gets it to a T because it was made during that time. So it's kind of a time capsule piece in that regard. A film that reminds me of films like Bully. Films like Bully or Kids was in the 90s, but you know what I'm saying. It's a movie that, or like Snowtown Murders, but not quite as dark as that. It reminds me of like a Harmony Korine film or a Larry Clark film, but not quite as harsh as those movies, but still having that dark vibe underneath throughout, like that messed up vibe underneath throughout. Because this character of Katrina in this film feels like she's from a Larry Clark film, feels like she's from that world of youth that just doesn't give a damn. That youth that just they're not ready for life, but they're past childhood, and they don't know what to do, and they think they do, but they really don't. And that's the type of vibe that this movie has. And as the movie goes along, things get darker and darker as characters go down certain roads. The movie's kind of all over the place tonally for a good portion of it. So it's kind of a bit of a roller coaster ride in that regard. But the movie is also based on a true story too, which a movie like Bully was as well. So that's why I kind of compare it to that a little bit, or even the movie Alpha Dog. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the movie Alpha Dog, the movie starring Justin Timberlake, and I think a young Anton Yelchin was in that film as well, but also based on a true story. I think Emil Hirsch is in that film too, or is that I'm thinking? Yeah, Emil Hirsch is in that movie, as well as Ben Foster. I think Ben Foster's in it too. Maybe I have the wrong movie. Either way, but in that movie, in that vibe of kind of youth run amok and just and going down dark, sinister paths, due to kind of immaturity, ignorance, um, stupidity, things like that. But I found this movie, kind of way more fascinating than I think I initially thought it was going to be, because it's also darkly comedic in a way, unexpectedly so. Um, so I do recommend this movie for people, but it is kind of harsh at times. So I do have to warn you about that. So that is the movie Suburban Mayhem from 2006, being put out by Umbrella in March 5th of next year. We're already in March. Well, they're in March. We're not quite there yet. Last is a film that I did not get to see. The Moogai. This is a newer film. This is a movie from 2024. Also, I did want to mention Suburban Mayhem does have a collector's edition too, with a 48-page book, custom designed rigid case and slipcase, 8 art cards, and reversible poster. The Moogai, Sarah and Fergus, a hopeful young Aboriginal couple give birth to their second baby, but what should be a joyous time of their lives becomes sinister. When Sarah starts seeing a malevolent spirit she is convinced is trying to take her baby, Fergus, who can't see it but desperately wants to believe her, grows increasingly worried as she becomes more unbalanced. Is the child stealing spirit real, or is she in fact the biggest threat to the safety of their family? Interesting. Special features here is a behind the scenes of the Moogai. That's it. March 5th, coming on March 5th as well. That is that from Umbrella, and then we'll move over to Eureka. Just seems logical here. I'm assuming next week will be Arrow, as it will be the last full week of the month, and just because they haven't announced anything yet for November during this announcement cycle. So we've got Eureka Entertainment has announced its February batch of Blu-ray releases. They are Legend of the Eighth Samurai from 1983, Dr. Vampire from 1990, and Sirk in Germany, 1934 to 1935. So Legend of the Eight Samurai, a Japanese box office sensation directed by the revered Kenji Fukasaku. Kenji Fukasaku is back once again for another release. It seems like everyone is putting out a Kenji Fukasaku film these days. We've gotten Kenji Fukasaku announcements from Radiance, now from Eureka. It seems like everyone's kind of doing it. Legend of the Eight Samurai brings together an impressive ensemble cast, including Hiroku Yakushimaru, and Hiroyuki Sanada. Sonny Chiba's in the film as well, and Etsuko Shiomi in a sweeping epic that blends fantasy with historical drama. The Satomi clan have all but been wiped out by their mortal enemies, the ghoulish members of the undead Hikita clan. The last Satomi survivor is Princess Shizu, who goes into hiding to avoid meeting the same fate as her family. Left to wander on her own, she eventually becomes entangled with farmer-turned-soldier Shinbei, and then a pair of warrior monks who reveal themselves to be two of the 8 fabled Hakenden, or dog warriors, who can lift the curse that has been placed upon their family. Together they must find the rest of the Hakenden and take on the leader of the Hikita clan, the evil Tamasuza. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Now I wanted to see if this movie had already been released. So Legend of the Eight Samurai has... Oh, no, actually, no, this has not been released. For some reason, I thought it was in one of the Shout sets already, but it's not. Because this is getting a US release on February 18th from Eureka, and the UK date is February 17th. Okay, never mind then. Never mind. So next is... and we got special features, sorry. So new 4K restoration of the film. This is just a Blu-ray, I believe. Yes. New audio commentary by Japanese cinema expert Joe Hickenbottom. Interview with Kenji Fukasaku's son, filmmaker Kenta Fukasaku. A video essay by film historian and critic Stuart Galbraith IV. And then we got a theatrical trailer. Now, Dr. Vampire is a movie that is only getting a UK release. So this would be a Region B release, because Dr. Vampire is in the Golden Harvest set. This is the one that Shout Factory has already put out. I knew it was one of them. So Dr. Vampire is while Hong Kong horror cinema is more often associated with the Jiangxi or hopping vampires of Chinese legend, it has also embraced, and more often than not lampooned, the Western vampire tradition. One of the more outrageous films to bring European bloodsuckers to Hong Kong is Jamie Luke's Dr. Vampire, a perfect blend of horror and comedy with shades of Vamp, Fright Night, and of course Hong Kong's own Mr. Vampire series. While on vacation in Britain, surgeon Dr. Chang Ta-sung wanders into a quaint rural pub in the grounds of a castle where he quickly falls for hostess Alice. Despite several warning signs, the good doctor fails to realize that the establishment is staffed entirely by vampires. Well, that happens. Even after Alice bites him during a late-night tryst, upon his return to Hong Kong and his long-standing love interest Mei Chan, he attempts to return to normal life, but soon he develops an aversion to sunlight and begins to crave blood, and things get even more complicated when Alice and her undead master, the Count, come looking for him. So, what we got here is a horror comedy vampire film That sounds rather crazy. But also maybe kind of reminds me of Dracula Dead and Loving It. That gives me that type of Mel Brooksian type of vibe. Because, playing on the classic vampiric tropes and all this kind of stuff feels very Mel Brooksian, if you will. I've not gotten to see this yet, but it is in, like I said, the Golden Harvest Volume 1 box set from Shout Factory. Let's see, we got a new 4K restoration of the film, new audio commentary with East Asian film experts Frank Zhang and John Charles, new audio commentary with Hong Kong cinema experts Mike Leader and Arnd Venema. A British vampire in Hong Kong, new on-camera interview with Stacey Abbott, author of Celluloid Vampires, Life After Death in the Modern World. And then that is it. Collector's booklet, as usual, from Eureka. But we got Sirk in Germany is this next set here, and this is what I'm excited for the most. This is a pleasant surprise. So, this is a box set with Douglas Sirk's early work, his work in Germany in the 1930s. For those of you who don't know who Douglas Sirk is he made a lot of Technicolor melodramas in the 1950s in U.S. cinema, right? All That Heaven Allows, Magnificent Obsession. He's got several films in the Criterion Collection that I think I have all of them. He's a great director, in my opinion. He's one of my kind of all-time favorites, and I don't have any of his early work, and I'm glad that somebody's putting out a box set of them. Written on the Wind is another one. Written on the Wind is another one. I know Criterion's put out these three of his films. I know Kino's put out a bunch of his films as well. I have a few of those. I know they've also put out two. I think they put out like a double feature of his early work as well. And I think one of the films is in here too. But don't quote me on that. Jeff, how much do you tip a vampire waiter? And the question is do you tip him in money? What does a vampire need with money? Does he need to pay like his property taxes for his castle? He doesn't need to pay like a water bill. He doesn't need to pay electricity bill. He can always use candles and stuff. He doesn't need heat or electricity or anything like that. I don't know what does a vampire waiter need money for? Also, what does a vampire waiter serve at a vampire restaurant? I mean, to humans, I mean, can't be anything with garlic. No garlic bread, no Italian dishes, pasta and such. No pizza. You know what I mean? How does one tip a waiter? I guess maybe like droplets of blood. I guess how much is too much. But who really knows? But where was I? Oh yes, the Douglas Sirk box set. So this is Sirk in 1934. And this has three feature films. It's got April, Girl from the Marshcroft, and Pillars of Society. But it also has a bunch of short films here as well. It has, let me see, it has Two Greyhounds, Three Times Before, The Imaginary Invalid. I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. No. Oh, there's two versions of Three Times Before. There's the silent version and then there's the sound version. And it says filmed with dialogue presented with subtitles due to loss of sound reel. Huh. And then you have The Imaginary Invalid. Okay. That makes sense. So, the undisputed master of melodrama, director Douglas Sirk is best known for the lavish, sweeping romances he made during the last decade of his career, including Magnificent Seven, All That Heaven Allows, Written on the Wind, The Imitation of Life is another big one. But by the time Sirk, born Heinz Detlef Sirk arrived in Hollywood, he had already made several films in his native Germany. The Masters of Cinema series is honored to present this collection of Douglas Sirk's earliest films, all of which established a blueprint for his later work. Yeah, you get his directorial debut. I think you also get his two films after that, plus all those shorts that I just mentioned. So, special features here. New restorations by the Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau Foundation. A new audio commentary on all three features by Sirk expert David Melville Wingrove. A new Magnificent Obsessions interview with film historian Sheldon Hall on Sirk's career from Germany to Hollywood. Two Greyhounds, 1934 short by Douglas Sirk, three times before the silent version by 1934 short by Douglas Sirk, alternate sound version, which I mentioned this already. Imaginary Invalid, another one, another short. And then you get a booklet with essay on Sirk's early works by cinema expert Tim Bergfelder. Yeah, this is kind of a must buy for me. I'm a big Douglas Sirk fan, like I said, so I got to get this. And I believe I've got to go check just to make sure right away. I think our friend Scott Saslow, let's see, did he work on this? I think he may have, but don't quote me on that. I'm on his website right now, and it doesn't say if he did or not. So don't quote me on that right now. The cover art looks interesting. I'll say that. I initially didn't pick up that it was a Douglas Sirk box set, but I'm glad it is. I'm super glad it is. So Sirk in Germany, Eureka release, and this is, let's see, Region B. Yeah, it's a Region B release coming out February 24th. Must buy. So that is it from Eureka. We've got the Legend of the Eight Samurai, a Dr. Vampire, and Sirk in Germany box set. These are all of their February releases. So that is it for Eureka. Let's move over now to Kino. So Kino, we have. I'm going to go through these quickly, just because I don't want to take too much time here, and I'm starting to lose my voice. So over at Kino, you've got a movie called That Funny Feeling, starring Sandra Dee, Bobby Darin, and Donald O'Connor. And there is, it just says, new audio commentary by film historian Julie Kurgo and writer/filmmaker Peter Hankoff. That's coming out January 14th. Let's see, I think I put it on my watch list on Letterboxd. Let me go check my watch list on Letterboxd. That is it right here. That Funny Feeling. Joan Howell, a young and pretty maid for hire, meets and begins dating wealthy New York City businessman Tom Milford. Embarrassed about bringing him back to her tiny apartment that she shares with her roommate Audrey, Joan brings Tom over to a fancy apartment that she cleans on a daily basis. Not knowing that it's his place, Tom plays along with the charade despite not knowing who Joan really is, while she tries to tidy up Tom's place, not knowing who he really is. Written by Matthew Patte. What a very kind of cute romantic comedy type of movie. Reminds me of the movie Made in Manhattan with Jennifer Lopez, giving me that type of vibe. It's giving me that type of vibe. But it's with Sandra Dee and Bobby Darin and Donald O'Connor. Moving on from there, Invasion of the Bee Girls. So, Invasion of the Bee Girls. This is coming with a new audio commentary by film historian Alexandra Heller Nicholas. Awesome. As well as Josh Nelson. Let's see. Do I have this on my watch list? Probably not. This is directed by Dennis Sanders. Came out in 1973. Neil Agar, a security agent with State Department, is dispatched to Peckham, California to investigate the death of a bacteriologist working at government-sponsored Brant Research. His investigation is soon complicated by a growing number of deaths, all men who died of congestive heart failure caused by sexual exhaustion. Okay, then. So they went out in a certain way. Interesting. I've never heard of this movie until now. It sounds like a sexploitation film from the 1970s. Is this? Let me see if this is one of those. It's not a Kino cult. Oh, it is a Kino cult release. That makes sense. Yep. This is in Kino cult number 24. Sounds like a cult film, B movie from the 70s, sexploitation, and indeed it is. So that's that. And then next we've got a Rock Hudson film called The Spiral Road, starring Rock Hudson, Burl Ives, and Gina Rowlands. So a selfish and prideful young Dutch doctor, through a series of circumstances, comes to learn that he does indeed need a higher spiritual being and other people. Sounds like an existential movie, if you will. I am very curious about this. It's directed by Robert Mulligan. Robert Mulligan, who directed To Kill a Mockingbird. So that automatically kind of makes me interested in it. He also directed the movie Come September, which is another Rock Hudson film that I actually have in my collection. I have both of them in my collection, but it makes me want to check it out. Makes me want to check it out. I want to watch all of Robert Rock Hudson's films. Sorry. So this is definitely something I will be getting at some point. This is coming out January 14th, and Invasion of the Bee Girls is coming out January 14th as well. Next is the movie I have talked about, I think. Imprint put this out a while ago. It's the movie, this is Kino Cult number 25. It's a Ken Russell film called Whore. Yes, that's what it's called. New audio commentary by novelist and critic Tim Lucas. New interview with screenwriter Deborah Dalton. Video comparison of alternate version with audio commentary by Tim Lucas. And I talked about this a while ago. I want to say years ago at this point. This is a movie from 1991, directed by Ken Russell. This melodrama investigates the life of a sex worker in pseudo-documentary style. It's a pseudo-documentary about the life of a sex worker and all that it entails. The good, the bad, the in-between, all of that. It's done by Ken Russell, so it's going to be graphic, of course, because it's Ken Russell. And I want to see when Imprint. I want to see when Imprint put this out. That's what I want to check right now. So Imprint put this out in 2022, July 27th of 2022. So we talked about it then. That was a while ago. Yeah. So I believe you have talked about it. It has Teresa Russell in it. Yes, I did. Yep, Jeff, I did. I do recall. So we'll move on from there since I've kind of talked about it before, and it's many people who are listening probably have it. Next is another film that Imprint has already put out, and I've talked about as well. That's called Save the Tiger, starring Jack Lemmon, Jack Guilford, and Laurie Heineman. This is directed by John G. Alvetson. John G. Alvetson, who directed Rocky, directed The Karate Kid. And this is a movie that was an Oscar winner for Best Actor for Jack Lemmon. I think it's the only Best Actor winner he ever got in terms of an Oscar. Oscar nominee for Best Supporting Actor for Jack Guilford. Best Original Screenplay. This is a really good movie. A really good movie. I cannot stress this enough. Jack Lemmon is such an underrated actor. I know people know him, and I know people know his work, his later work. I think a lot of people from my generation grew up with Grumpy Old Men, and when he was in Tuesdays with Morrie, and the work he did with Walter Matthau and stuff like that. But Jack Lemmon back in the day was a damn good actor. And I cannot stress enough how good his stuff is. We mentioned earlier, Josie mentioned The Out of Towners. This movie came out after that, but it was in that same type of realm, same type of era of Jack Lemmon's career, and he's really good in this movie. So, juggle the books, set fire to the factory, supply women for the clients. Harry Stoner will do anything to get one more season. A businessman, professional struggles begin to conflict with his personal life over the course of 2 days. So it's a movie that takes place over kind of like a real-time situation in 2 days, where he's this type of guy who synopsis says, he's kind of not a mover and shaker, but he's willing to do anything to make his business work, essentially. Whether it's legal or not legal, whether it's moral or immoral, he's willing to do it. And whether he has to compromise himself or others, he's willing to do it. And man, he battles with that. But this is a good movie. This is really good. I wanted to get the Imprint release when it was announced and when it came out, but it sold out pretty quickly. Like, it's been sold out for probably over a year. Save the Tiger. This came out in October of 2022, and I believe it's long out of print, or at least the limited edition has long been sold out. And that release had some decent special features. I don't know if they announced. I don't think they've announced any here yet. No, they haven't. So we'll probably have to come back in later when Kino announces what the special features are, and then do the comparison to the imprint release. I'm hoping they're the same. It says a brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter original camera negative. That's the only thing they tell me about this. Um, I don't think they tell me anything else, except I think the imprint was sourced from an older master. That seems to be the case here. So if anything, this is going to look better than the imprint release did. And I've noticed that that's happened a couple of times where imprint has put something out and then Kino's put out the same thing, but with a new remaster. Whether Imprint just has done it so early that they don't have access to it, or they just haven't paid for the new master, or to have it remastered, or whatever the case may be, it seems that Kino was able to put in that little bit of extra work to get the brand new remaster. Probably them waiting is what did it, because these releases are going to be over 2 years apart. So within that time frame, perhaps whoever owns the rights to these movies has gone and done a remaster. So that's interesting. Um, yeah, I agree with you, Adam. Adam Schofield says, "Save the Tiger is great but bleak. This and Missing and China Syndrome was part of his later post-funny period." Yeah, now that I think about it, you're right. To me, when I think good, I think bleak. I don't know if I'm just a pessimist at heart. There was a time, several years ago, before the podcasting, before all that stuff, where I would just be watching just the darkest and bleakest films all the time, just all of the time, and it's just me alone late at night, just watching just dark, bleak, dramatic films. Most of my collection are dark, bleak, dramatic films, so that's what I consider great cinema. I don't know why. I just maybe I'm just a pessimist at heart, as I said, pessimist at heart. But you're right, Adam. That is interesting how these actors who are known for being um, comedic actors, who've made their careers on doing comedies and uh, doing comedic films and all that kinds of stuff, decide to then switch and do dramas. I'm thinking of Jim Carrey off the top of my head. Jim Carrey made that switch and was pretty damn successful at it. And other actors have tried to do the same thing. And some are more successful than others, some are not. Kind of just it can go either way. Yeah. Let's see what else do we have here. Uh Adam, you are correct, sir. Adam Schofield says 70s pessimism. 70s is kind of my favorite decade, and that is of cinema, of cinema, and that is a bleak decade for cinema. It is dark, bleak, pessimistic, um, not hopeful, really, and it's kind of a reflection of the times in which we're there. It's a reflection of the generation that were making movies of that time. If you think about the filmmakers of that time, these are the filmmakers who grew up in the 60s and in the 50s. And these are so they're kind of making movies as reactions to what they experienced in life. Um, Vietnam and things like that, and the political turmoil here in the United States, and the cultural revolution of the 60s, the civil rights movement, the women's rights movements, all of that kind of stuff. And now you've got all these people now having access to filmmaking equipment. They're going to start making movies that are going to be a reflection of the society that is there at the time. Watergate and things like that, Nixon administration, all this kind of stuff, the political assassinations that are going on here in the United States, and all the political strife around the world. So you get that 70s supercharged pessimism. And to be frank and to be honest, not a lot has changed in terms of the world from the 70s to now. We're still dealing with wars all over the world, political issues, civil rights issues, women's rights issues, um, all kinds of things, all kinds of things. So we haven't really come that far. It's very interesting. I know it's a whole more of a sociological type of thought process, but it is things I think to think about. When it comes to just the way cinema is and the way cinema historically has been, being reflection of its time, and how things really haven't changed that much. Let's see. Where was I? I went off on Too many tangents already. I promised myself I wasn't going to go off on tangents, and I did. I'm still in the Kino world, so Save the Tiger. We've got this movie called Lords of Discipline, starring David Keith, not Keith David, David Keith. Let's see what I've got for Lords of Discipline. Um, I don't think I do have it in my watch list. See, that makes things much easier. It says Will arrives for his last year of military academy in the deep South USA in the 1960s. A black student, Pierce, has been accepted for the first time, and Will is asked to keep an eye out for the inevitable racism. The racists come in form of the Ten, a secret group of elite students. They want Pierce to leave on his own free will, but are prepared to torture him to make it his free will. Will is forced to help Pierce, and he is prepared to risk his own career to do so. We were just talking about civil rights issues and things like that. Here we have a film set in the 1960s that was made in 1983, and it's dealing with that. This is interesting. I've never heard of this movie before until now, but I want to give it a watch. I do want to give it a watch. Let's see nothing in terms of special features. It's getting a 4K UHD release, so that's fascinating. We're going straight to 4K UHD. Next we have the movie April Fool's Day, which I was supposed to talk about last time, but I didn't. So April Fool's Day is getting a 2-disc edition, a 4K UHD disc, and a bonus features Blu-ray disc. It's getting a new audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. It's got a 2-part interview with director Fred Walton on the second disc. It's got a Well of Lies interview with actress Deborah Goodrich Royce. It's got a Looking Forward to Dessert interview with actor Clayton Rohner. Bloody Unforgettable interview with composer Charles Bernstein. The Eye of Deception, the interview with cinematographer Charles Minsky. And that's it. It's got a slipcover. It's coming out January 21st. Next is a movie called Body Parts. So Body Parts I did get to see. This is a movie starring Jeff Fahey. Jeff Fahey, who I remember from the show Lost. He showed up in one of the later seasons and was kind of just around. He was a pilot. He was a pilot in it. So this is a 2-disc edition. First disc being the 4K UHD release, second disc being the Blu-ray. It's got an audio commentary by co-writer / director Eric Red. And it's got interview with Eric Red. It's got an interview with the editor Anthony Redmond. It's got an interview with actor Paul Ben Victor, and interview with actor Peter Murnick, and Stills Gallery, and 4K UHD release. So this is an interesting body horror film starring Jeff Fahey, where Jeff Fahey, he's a teacher, like a professor or some guy, and he gets in a car accident, and he has to have his arm amputated. And he has to have his right arm amputated, and they want to replace his arm with a new body part. Well, not a new body part. They want to replace his arm with the donated arm. And the donated arm happens to be someone who was killed on death row. So he's got the arm of a murderer, and what ends up happening is the arm ends up starting to kind of take him over. It starts doing things on its own. It starts making him act like more angry and aggressive, and like the person who the arm originally belonged to. And he figures it out, and then he's got to like figure out what to do about it. It's one of those types of movies. I think you've heard about like The Devil's Hands or something like that before, where you get an evil pair of hands and they start taking you over and start doing things on their own and whatnot. So that's what this movie is about. It's a cool body horror film. I dig it. It's nothing unexpected, but I enjoyed watching it. Let's see what else we've got here. So moving on from there, we have I've already talked about the movie Orca, but it's got a list of special features now. Orca, the killer whale movie, the one with Richard Harris, Charlotte Rampling, Will Sampson, Bo Derek. It's got a 2-disc edition, 4K UHD. It's got a Blu-ray. I think the Blu-ray is the movie, not just special features like the other ones were. Audio commentary of film historian Lee Gambin, rest in peace. Lee Gambin showed up on many special features lists over the years that we've been covering here on Chasing Labels. Of course, many of you know that he recently passed away this year, a few months ago. It's always nice to see his name show up on special features lists now. So that's really nice. And we got a new audio commentary by Film historians Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson as well. Next is Sea of Love with Al Pacino, Ellen Barkin, and John Goodman. Film from 1989. We've got Al Pacino as a cop, not in the movie Heat, which would come out 5 years later. Different Al Pacino here. It's before he won his Oscar for Scent of the Woman, so he's not quite yelling out all of his lines yet, like he did in Scent of a Woman and Devil's Advocate. This is a 4K UHD release. It's got 4K UHD. It's got a Blu-ray. It's got an audio commentary by director Harold Becker, new audio commentary by film historian Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. And this is a movie about Al Pacino is a cop who is a homicide detective who is on the hunt for a killer who he believes to be a woman who is killing men who put ads out in like dating ads out in like a singles newspaper or like a Gentleman's Quarterly or something like that. This is old school stuff. This is 1989. There's no internet. There's no dating apps or anything like that. If you were trying to do something like that at that time, you would put an ad out in a newspaper, or you would put an ad out in a magazine or a specific dating magazine or something like that. And that's how, and then women would, contact you through a phone number or contact you through letters or something like that. So what is happening is there's these men that are being killed after they place a certain type of ad into these magazines. And Al Pacino is trying to find out who the killer is. And he comes across a woman that he ends up falling in love with, and she may be the killer. So that's the rub of it all, if you will. John Goodman is another police officer from like another precinct who's also investigating the same thing. So they team up together on this. John Goodman is awesome in this movie. He's just like so great on screen. He's got great lines, great timing. He's an underrated actor. John Goodman is so good. He's just so good, even in a smaller role like this, playing opposite Al Pacino. He's great. Really, really great. So that's the movie Sea of Love. It is currently streaming on Netflix. Whether it's streaming on Netflix in the future when you're listening to this, I don't know. Things seem to change all the time in the streaming world, but that's where I watched it. Houseboat I talked about last time. So I don't need to talk about that. That's the Cary Grant and Sophia Loren film. Next, we got a movie called The 10th Victim, starring Marcello Mastroianni, Ursula Andress, Elsa Martinelli. This is a movie that I have not seen, but it's a movie that looked interesting to me. Anytime you got a title that's grabbing like that, and it's also starring Marcello Mastroianni, I've got to at least give it a watch. So this is an Italian film. In the near future, big wars are avoided by giving individuals with violent tendencies a chance to kill in the big hunt. The hunt is the most popular form of entertainment in the world and also attracts participants who are looking for fame and fortune. It includes 10 rounds for each competitor, 5 as the hunter and 5 as the victim. So we're getting like a battle royale, a Hunger Games. The Squid Game. It's kind of that series on Netflix. It's kind of similar to that as well. Or even The Purge. It feels like that. So with that being said, I'm very interested in this movie. I just have to give it a watch. I think it's streaming on Amazon Prime right now. I think that's a blonde-haired Marcello Mastroianni I've seen in it. For those of you who don't know who Marcello Mastroianni is, he was in 8½. He was in La Dolce Vita. He was in La Notte. He was in A Special Day. He was also in the movie La Notte Blanche. He's been in a lot of movies. He's in Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Yeah, if you see him, you'll probably know who he is. Handsome man. Devilishly handsome man. So that is The 10th Victim. Adam Schofield says, Sea of Love can be seen as Pacino's heterosexual apology for cruising, I think. Same story, different sexes. Now that you think about it, yes. It did give off a cruising vibe, just nowhere near as intense as that movie. Nowhere as good as that movie, really. Cruising, I think, is actually rather good, but it is the heterosexual version of Cruising, where he's got to go through the heterosexual world in order to find a killer, as opposed to Cruising, where he's got to go through the homosexual or LGBTQ plus world to um to find a killer. Interesting. That is a very interesting comparison. Good call, Adam. Good call. I like that. I like that. And then Jeff asked, why did Pacino's acting style change so drastically? I don't know. I do not know, Jeff. And I don't know what point that ended up happening. Because he did do yelling acting back in the 70s. If you remember the movie Dog Day Afternoon, he's yelling Attica when he's in front of the bank. So he's yelling in that movie. I think also over time, like his voice changed and things like that. So it became more brusque. So we as audiences noticed how powerful it was. Whereas you notice him back in like the early 70s. His voice is much less brusque, much more meek. If you notice him, like I want to say Scarface, but not Scarface. But if you notice him in The Godfather, you notice him in The Godfather, and even earlier films than that, Panic in Needle Park, his voice is much meeker. But yeah, I don't know. Acting styles change. Smoking and boozing made him more gruff. You know what? I don't know. You're probably right. You're probably right. That does change. When people get older, their voice changes naturally. But of course, smoking and alcohol can change that dramatically, especially if you've been doing it for so long. Um, you know, that'll definitely happen. That'll definitely happen. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, so we talked about the 10th victim, and then what do we else we have? Oh, the Bone Collector. So, uh, the Bone Collector starring Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie, Queen Latifah, Michael Rooker. Louis Guzman shows up in the movie at one point. This is the movie directed by Philip Noyce, who did Dead Calm, underrated movie, Blind Fury, Patriot Games, The Saint, and the movie Salt, which I think that's the Angelina Jolie film, Salt. And this is a movie that I have not seen in many years. I think I've only seen it once. Yes, The Bone Collector. Here we go. Rookie cop Amelia Donaghy reluctantly teams with Lincoln Rhyme, formerly the department's top homicide detective, but now paralyzed as a result of a spinal injury, to catch a grisly serial killer dubbed the Bone Collector. The murderer's special signature is to leave tantalizing clues based on the grim remains of his crimes. I haven't seen this movie in so long. Let me see when I actually saw it last. Okay, I lied to all of you. I saw it in 2019. That was I just don't remember much of it. Unfortunately. But I do remember Denzel, Angelina Jolie, and it came out in 1999. There's that late 90s period where you got these dark, gritty police investigative crime films. Seven was 1995, and I think after that, everything tried to mimic it. You've got Seven, you've got the movie The Cure, you've got The Bone Collector here, and I feel like everything had to be dark and gritty, and killer crime films, if you will. This is getting, I believe, a 4K UHD release. Yeah, coming soon on 4K UHD. Brand new HDR/ DV master from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter original camera negative. Yeah, that's it. That's it, because the next movie here is something I already talked about, so I don't need to talk about it. So let's move over to Severin. Now, I had Severin all set up, but I've got to go back and reset up the tab I had, because I don't know if anybody noticed this, but if you leave Facebook on a specific page for too long, it like kicks you out and puts you back onto the home page, which is really annoying, because I had scrolled all the way down on Severin's page where I needed to be. Because the last time, in the last episode number 152, we had only talked about the first Black Friday reveal from Severin, because that's all they had done at the time. That was Delicatessen, the Jean-Pierre Jeunet film. And now we've got like another 8 of these that have come out over the last 2 weeks. So here we are. I've gotten to it. So Severin Black Friday title reveal number 2 is Eaten Alive, and this is a worldwide UHD premiere. It says, after launching the genre with Man from the Deep River, writer-director Umberto Lenzi ups the ante and then some, with the most entertaining cannibal adventure of them all, now in UHD for the first time ever, a desperate rescue expedition to the jungles of New Guinea will unleash bizarre primitive rituals, over-the-top violence, gratuitous nudity, recycled footage, a maniacal cult leader, and an all-you-can-eat buffet of flesh-chomping carnage. So, um, this movie is very much in the vein of like Ruggero Deodato's other film that I'm gonna mention here, which is called like the Last Cannibal World. They actually use footage from that movie into this movie, uh, and it's like spliced in, and it's pretty obvious. There's one sequence where there's this character that's dying, and the scene that they splice it into is taking place during the day, and then the scene is at night, and so it doesn't line up. Doesn't make any sense. It's it's really a mess. It's weird because there's definitely a market and a fascination with cannibal films or that genre or subgenre of that time. And what's interesting to me is that I don't know why that was so fascinating to people. I don't know. I guess I would have had to have been there at the time. But I'm kind of rambling now. But Umberto Lenzi, who we all know has an Umberto as a the Lenzi Baker box set from Severin. There's a Violent Streets box set which has like 70s like police crime films that he did as well. And we've gotten a bunch of Roberto Lenzi from Severin. So this goes along right with what they've been releasing. As we all know, Severin will be having their Black Friday sale coming this Black Friday. This Friday, during the weekend. That Saturday, they will be having a box set sale for 24 hours. That's where I start paying attention because I love the Severin box sets. The Severin box sets are great releases, well constructed, compact. They fit and look really nice on a shelf, and the releases are packed individually with loads of special features. I still need to get that Violent Streets box set. Umberto Lenzi. I still need to get the Eurocrypt #2, the Christopher Lee box set. I still need to get my hands on that. So I got to see what the prices are looking like and shipping and stuff like that. For me personally, for you at home, go nuts, do whatever you want. But that is upcoming this weekend, this coming weekend. So be ready for that. And this release here will be part of that. I think that's when we can start ordering these. This film here, the plot of it is that this young woman, her sister, has joined a cult and she's gone missing. So she decides to go down there and find her in New Guinea. And come to find out that she's joined a cult with a cult leader and who also happens to be like running a village of cannibals. Yeah, unfortunately, as Adam says, nothing but upgrades from Severin, a bit of a shame. And also he also says apart from all the haunts too. Yeah, I didn't think that they were gonna have all the haunts 2 be on sale yet. That'll probably be next year. I think it's mostly stuff that's been released like way back. Not way back, but like years past. I don't think it's anything really on sale that's come out this year. I'd have to look down the list of both what's the new sale stuff as well as the old sale stuff. Uh, it's kind of what I expected though. So if you need to get caught up, you can try to get caught up. If you want to like get halfway caught up and get halfway caught up, it's kind of fine. But obviously, if you're a diehard Severin collector, you've already bought everything. Obviously, the sale may not be good for you. You know what I mean? You're not going to need anything, so therefore it's kind of for everybody else. But since I'm like indifferent on everything, there's a lot of other things I still need to get. Um, but Vinegar Syndrome's having their sale as well. I'm hoping for that's when I kind of go for the partner label stuff. I'm hoping some partner label stuff that I haven't gotten yet, it will be on sale, and I'll be able to scoop some things up there as well. And then next we've got number 3, which is Severin Black Friday title reveal number 3, which is Rats Night of Terror. You can kind of understand what this movie's about. It's directed by Bruno Mattei. Um, it says, having depicted the zombie apocalypse in Hell of the Living Dead, director Bruno Mattei and screenwriters Claudio Fragasso and Rosella Drudy took on a new kind of cataclysm to create a grotesque, funny, and thrilling magnum opus that still must be seen to be believed now in UHD in the year 255 AB, after the bomb. A gang of scavengers discovers a seemingly abandoned city, including sets originally built for Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio Leone film. only to become prey for millions of flesh-hungry rats. Ottavino dell'Acqua, Massimo Vanni, Gianfranco, and Goretti. Oh boy, Goretta star with a classic '80s Italian horror score by Luigi. Oh boy, um, Cescarelli, I guess did Nosferatu in Venice, and Bruno Mattei's masterpiece, now scanned in 4K from the original camera negative for the first time ever. It's got special features. Actually, let me see. Hold on, I never even looked up the other special features. Yeah, the special features for the Umberto Lenzi has a new audio commentary with Mondo Digital's Nathaniel Thompson and Troy Haworth, author of Make Them Die Slowly, the kinetic cinema of Umberto Lenzi. Audio commentary. Actually, I just read that. Welcome to the Jungle. Interview with director Umberto Lenzi. That's awesome. Diodato meets Lenzi, an exclusive discussion of their Cannibal films. Mimi Lai Bites Back, feature documentary on the Queen of Cannibal movies. Yeah, she's in both this film as well as the Diodato film that we're going to talk about really, really soon. Coincidentally, her scene is what's like cut into this movie from the other movie. And we got a bunch of other features here, but I want to move along because I got to go through the features of Rats, which is such a great title. Rats, Night of Terror. Mad Rats, The Making of a Cult, featuring co-writer slash uncredited co-director Claudio Fragasso. And then all of the actors I just mentioned earlier of Rats and Men, the interview with director Bruno Mattei, that's cool. Richard and the Rats, interview with actor Ottaviano Dell'Acqua. Chocolate and the Rats, interview with actress Garetta. Last Rat Standing, interview with actor Gianni Franco. Rat Stance, interview with composer Luigi Ceccarelli. Bruno and Claudio, I knew them well. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these special features because there's so much. These things are packed. And there's a bonus CD disc as well. Let's go to number 4 is Severin Black Friday title number 4, Slave of the Cannibal God. The worldwide UHD premiere. After creating some of the best gialli of the 1970s, director Sergio Martino, All Colors of the Dark, entered the cannibal cycle with this blood and guts gore fest. And still packs a punch, and is presented in UHD for the first time ever. When a British scientist disappears in the jungles of New Guinea, his wife, Ursula Andress, hires an American anthropologist, Stacy Keach, to lead her deep into the green inferno of graphic violence, steamy nudity, and several of the most notorious scenes in the entire genre. Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of cannibal films are releasing this year. I don't know why. That just seems to be the trend. Let's see. Now let's go to Severin title reveal number 5. And this is The Creeping Flesh, or Hell of the Living Dead. It's a North American UHD premiere. What began as the epic global zombie apocalypse screenplay Virus by Claudio Fragasso and Rossella Drudy, via the inimitable vision of director Bruno Mattei and a fraction of the original budget, the gloriously ludicrous, compulsively watchable, infamous zombie chomp spectacular now in UHD for the first time in America when a top secret biomedical project accidentally unleashes a catastrophic plague. A 4-man commando team and a female reporter lead head into the jungle for an absolute insane, experiencing gratuitous nudity, grisly stock footage, and ravenous hordes of flesh-eating zombies. So it was zombies and cannibals in the 70s. That seems to be that. Yeah, there's just too many special features to go through here. I'll just end up reading to you guys. Plus, I want to get to Criterion before I pass out here. Yeah, so Severin Black Friday title reveal number 6 is The Last Cannibal World. This is the Ruggero Deodato film that I was referencing earlier. For the first time in his unofficial cannibal trilogy, director Ruggero Deodato delivered a depraved adventure that's been called well-made and meaty, gripping and shocking, and easily the most savage of the entire genre. Presented in UHD for the first time ever, in a jungle hell that has no pity for man, the survivors of a plane crash are hunted by a primitive tribe with a taste for torment. Massimo Foschi, Ivan Rasimov, and Mimi Lay star in the ultra-graphic Gut Muncher, also known as Jungle Holocaust, The Last Survivor, and Cannibal, that raised the bar in terms of extreme gore and nastiness. Now scanned in 4K from the original camera negative with over 2.5 hours of special features. Yeah, this movie's gory as hell. It is, It is harsh. It's harsh to watch. I'm not gonna lie to you guys there. It's brutal. It really is. This guy who survives his plane crash goes through it, like, harshly goes through it. He becomes their captive, and, yeah, they kind of, like, torture the guy, and he just sits there and witnesses them doing just horrific things. These movies are not for the faint of heart. They're really not. So, Ruggiero Deodato did the movie Cannibal Holocaust, um, which is infamous. That's an infamous film. This is the film he did before Cannibal Holocaust. So he's kind of dabbling in the world of the cannibal subgenre in the horror realm before his magnum opus in Cannibal Holocaust, which would come out a couple of years later. So if you've seen Cannibal Holocaust, this movie is, you know what this movie is. If you haven't seen Cannibal Holocaust, or if you don't even know what Cannibal Holocaust is, then these movies are not going to be for you. They're going to gross you out. They're really going to gross you out. So let's move on. Let's move now to number 7. And number 7 is, I'm just going to go through it briefly because there's nothing really much to say about it. Thong Girls this is a Jess Franco film. And the 1983 production from writer-director Jess Franco can finally be experienced as one of his most surprising and heartfelt offerings of the decade. I bet it is. It's the summer's end in the resort city of Benidorm, where seductive foreigners, conniving hustlers, and gullible tourists and insatiable celebrities all come together in a bobbed conflection that's part sunny comedy, part Nashville-style satire, and totally unmistakably sexy Franco fun. So when they meant Nashville-style satire, they meant the Robert Altman film, Nashville. Jess's partner slash muse, Lena Rome, and production manager star Antonio Mayans are joined by a cast of familiar faces from their 80s stock company. Yeah, in this unexpected delight from one of these cinema's great individualists. They really give absolutely no premise here as to what the movie's about. It's a Jess Franco film. It's gonna be weird. That's all I can really say to people. There is an audio commentary with Franco-Mania's John Dixon and William Morris, plus an interview with Stephen Thrower, and the delirious cinema of Jeff Franco is always he's the author of Flowers of Perversion, the delirious cinema of Jeff Franco. In the Land of Franco, Part 11. I think that's an ongoing documentary series they have about Jess Franco. We have Severin Black Friday title reveal number 8, and this is Night Train Murders. I actually did see this. Far Too Long, this 1974 shocker directed by Aldo Lado, has been dismissed as a Last House on the Left knockoff. Now it can be experienced as a classic, more intense and disturbing than the film that it inspired. In UHD for the first time ever, since I've seen this movie, I can kind of tell you guys what it's all about. So it is very much like a Last House on the Left, like Bergman's movie Virgin Spring. These two young women are traveling on a train. They're taking a train home for the holidays, like home for Christmas holiday, and they're basically accosted and abused and by 3 people, two guys and a woman. And if you've seen Last House on the Left, even if you've seen the remake, you know what I'm talking about here. It's graphic, it's sexual, it's violent, it's awful, it's hard to watch, and this happens on a train. And what ends up happening, these people end up meeting the parents of one of the girls, and then those parents take revenge. You've seen this movie if you've seen those other movies. So that's why it is kind of a knockoff of The Last House on the Left. It's like a German version of Last House on the Left or the Virgin Spring. I think it was banned in England or Great Britain for like years, because of how graphic one of the scenes is. But yeah, it's got 2 audio commentaries here, one with the director and one with Ultraviolet Magazine's art editor and Cinema Arcana's Bruce Holchek. And there's an interview with director Aldo Raines, an interview with actress Maca Merrill, interview with actor Gianfranco De Grassi, plus interview with actress Irene Miracle. Yeah, there's a bunch of special features here, and the CD soundtrack too. Yeah, so that's that movie. Then we have Antiviral. So Antiviral is Brandon Cronenberg's first film that he directed. Brandon Cronenberg being the son of David Cronenberg. Brandon Cronenberg is going on to do the movies Possessor and Infinity Pool, 2, I think, really, really good films. And in this film here, you can see him experimenting and trying out things that he would then go on to utilize in Possessor and in Infinity Pool to greater success. To greater success. So, the award-winning debut feature by director slash writer Brandon Cronenberg has been called wild and creepy, smart and subversive, and hallucinatory body horror from the same plasma as Videodrome. Well, his father is David Cronenberg. Now it can be experienced in UHD for the first time ever. Sid March, who is portrayed by Caleb Landry Jones, who is an underrated actor. He's an underrated actor. Is a top sales representative for the Lucas Clinic, which harvests exclusive infections from celebrities for injection into obsessed fans, but in the near future consumed by the possibilities of biological communion, will Sid himself pay a horrific price for the toxicity of fame? Yeah, Malcolm McDowell's in the film, Sarah Gaden's in the film as well. So what happens in this movie is that this guy works for this company that, like I said, like it says, harvests like infectious diseases from celebrities to then sell to obsessed fans. But of course there's also like a black market for this as well. So some of the people who work there do things on the side that they probably shouldn't be doing. And he ends up doing that and 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 things kind of go from there. I don't want to give away any plot stuff, but it gets complicated from there. He ends up doing something he shouldn't do, and then consequences kind of emerge after that. It is also it is, you could probably tell, part satire about celebrity obsession and celebrity culture, how obsessed we are with them today. There's certain fandoms that are just super obsessed with certain people, and what lengths will they go to be close to that person? Well, would you go as far as to inject you know a disease that they have into yourself because you want to be closer to them? The movie plays on that a little bit. Not too much. It mostly focuses on some other things, but but it's a film that is asking a lot of those kind of cultural questions to our modern time. I liked it. I actually liked it, but I do see where he would go on to perfect a lot of the things he was trying in this movie later on. It's got an audio commentary with writer-director Brandon Cronenberg and director of photography Karim Hussein. Broken Tulip, short film written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg, Anatomy of a Virus, making a featurette. Reviving a Dead Cell, Brandon Cronenberg and Karim Hussein discuss the restoration. Brandon Cronenberg, a first-time director's vision, deleted scenes. First meeting with actors Caleb Landry Jones and Sarah Gaden. And the design of Antiviral, interviews with production designer Arvinder Grewal. And there's a second disc here as well, which has introduction to the Can Cut by director Brandon Cronenberg and director of photography Karim Hussein. Yeah, there's two cuts in the movie here. There's the theatrical cut and then there's the Can Cut. I'm assuming the Can Cut's longer. That's my assumption there. And that we got one more. We got one more here from Severin. It's called The Mask of Satan. Mask of Satan. So, Severin Black Friday title reveal number 10, The Mask of Satan. And this is from Lamberto Bava, who did Demons, the son of Mario Bava. So, from director, writer Lamberto Bava comes a modern-day reimagining of his father's classic Black Sunday. Yeah, I just mentioned him. Featuring effects by Sergio Stivaleti, music by Simon Boswell, and hailed as an impressive evolution of 80s Italian horror that not enough fans have seen. When a group of skiers become trapped in a crevice, their discovery of a long frozen female corpse will unmask an ancient evil, unlock a portal of the damned, and unleash a nightmare of satanic vengeance. That sounds pretty cool. I really like the movie Demons. I like Mario Bava's work. I have to get more Mario Bava's work. I have to get more Lamberto Bava's work. I got to get more Bava. I need more Bava in my life. This has, for special features, The Curse of the Mask, interview with director Lamberto Bava, Una Americana and Roma, interview with actress Mary Sellers, Sabina the Teenage Witch, interview with actress Deborah Cabrioli. Then feature specs, and then just feature specs here. Sorry, I started over talking here. So that is it for Severin when it comes to, I think, all of their Black Friday stuff. Yes. Oh, Adam Schofield here says, it's only half a train film. They get off the train and then it's a home invasion. It is unpleasant, not Lato's best. What is interesting is that that whole third like third part, that whole revenge part of that story is only told in like 20 minutes. Like it's only like the last 20 minutes of that movie. It's most of the movie is them on the train. If I remember correctly when I was watching it. And I remember watching it being like, wow, they're gonna wrap this movie up very, very quickly. Like very quickly. And they do. And they do end up wrapping that up. So now we've come to it. I believe we're in for the home stretch here. We're gonna go over to Criterion, just because that's what I'm finishing with. That's what I'm finishing with. They made their announcements, I think, last Monday. Last Monday, which was I think the 18th. I think that's when they did it, and they announced their February releases. Steven and I got together, like I said, last Monday, along with our friend Johnny Pamato, to do our Unwatched Pile episode, which was Noir Vember based, and it went off very, very well. If you haven't checked that out yet, please check it out. We all took a film noir off of our shelf that we hadn't watched yet. We watched it, and then we paired it up with something that was already in our collection that we had seen. It kind of did that. So I want to make sure to plug that one more time, just so that people know what's going on here in Chasing Labels land. And in Chasing Labels world, that is what is happening. I also wanted to mention here that there's probably going to be at least one more Chasing Labels episode before the end of the year. Maybe just one more. I'm not quite sure how things are going to line up in terms of scheduling when it comes to the holiday season. So I wanted to make sure to mention that here. And I'll probably mention that one more time before we get to the very, very end of the show. So what we got here for Criterion. We've got 5 movies. We've got Kronos, the Guillermo del Toro film, is getting a 4K UHD release. I feel like I'm having deja vu because last time on episode number 152, I talked about Kronos getting a 4K UHD release from the BFI. So we're here once again. Next, we have the movie Performance, the Nicholas Roeg film. Then we've got Drugstore Cowboy, the Gus Van Sant film. We have Crossing Delancey. Oh, yes, the Joan Micklin Silver film. And then we've got King Lear by Jean-Luc Godard. What a nice slate of releases. Crossing Delancey getting a Blu-ray release. Not only a Blu-ray release, but a 4K Blu-ray release from Criterion. Oh, that made my week. This is one of the highlights of my year. Really, it is. I didn't see this happening. I remember when we talked about Chilly Scenes of Winter, when that got announced, and we talked about that here on Chasing Labels, I was like, Crossing Delancey still needs a release. And this is going back a ways. And damn if I'm glad that this is finally happening. So I'm going to talk about that first. So Joan Micklin Silver's wonderfully affectionate spin on the romantic comedy infuses the genre with a fresh personal perspective following an unmarried Jewish woman's search for fulfillment in New York City. Happily independent bookstore manager Izzy, a luminous Amy Irving, isn't looking for love, but she's forced to reevaluate her desires when she catches the eye of two very different men, a self-centered novelist, Jerome Crabb, and the mild-mannered Lower East Side pickle seller, Peter Riegert, with whom her old-fashioned Bubby, scene-stealing Yiddish theater star Rizel Boysk, sets her up. A love letter to 1980s Manhattan shot in beautifully burnished autumnal tones, Crossing Delancey gracefully captures the magic of a city where the disparate cultures, generations, and traditions both clash and connect. This is a great movie. If you like Chilly Scenes of Winter, you're going to like this movie. I think this movie's better than Chilly Scenes of Winter. For special features here, we've got a new program on the making of the film featuring actors Amy Irving and Peter Riegert and screenwriter Susan Sandler. Audio interview from 1988 with director Joan Micklin Silver. I can't wait for this. This is one of my highest priority buys for 2025. Straight up saying that now. Crossing Delancey. Thank goodness. So Joan Micklin Silver has got 2 films out from Criterion, Chilly Scenes of Winter, as well as Crossing Delancey. Hester Street has a Cohen Media release. There's one more film that she did, a Fish in the Bathtub. This has a Cohen Media release as well. I talked about this when it came out a while ago. Yeah, this movie came out in 2020, 2022. I mean, well, the Blu-ray came out in 2022. That's the movie with Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira. Young Mark Ruffalo is in it. It's a nice little like family drama comedy. But that was directed by Joan Micklin Silver as well. So a nice little mix of Joan Micklin Silver that's available for everyone. Some comments here. Adam Schofield says, "Short Night of Glass Dolls is way better." I've not seen that movie actually. I think this was the first Aldo Lado film I've ever seen. To be honest, to be honest with you. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'll add it to my watch list on Letterboxd. Oh, that's one. That's one right here. I will add, which is Glass Dolls. And then we've got I've not seen Delancey. Adam Schofield said, well, I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. Um, it's really good. It's really, really good. Outside of that, we've got some others here, like I just mentioned. Kronos, which is the Guillermo del Toro vampire film. We were talking about vampires a little earlier. Um, and this is del Toro's vampire film. His love letter to like Dracula and Nosferatu and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's his vibe. That's really his vibe. So Guillermo del Toro made an auspicious and audacious feature debut with Kronos. Yeah, this is his feature debut. A highly unorthodox tale about the seductiveness of the idea of immortality. Kindly antique dealer Jesus Grease happens upon an ancient golden device in the shape of a scarab and soon finds himself the possessor and victims of its sinister addictive powers, as well as the target of a mysterious American named Angel, a delightfully crude and deranged Ron Perlman, a young Ron Perlman too, and featuring marvelous makeup effects and the haunting imagery for which Del Toro has become world renowned. Kronos is a dark, visually rich, and emotionally captivating fantasy. This is the yeah. I'm biased. I love Del Toro. I love him and his work. Um, so I have the Blu-ray of this. So upgrading this to the 4K at some point is something I'm definitely going to do. I'm assuming it has all the special features as the Blu-ray does. 2 audio commentaries, one featuring Del Toro and the other producers Arthur H. Gorson and Bertha Navarro and co-producer Alejandro Springal. Geometria, an unreleased 1987 short horror film by Del Toro, finished in 2010. Welcome to Bleak House, a tour by Del Toro of his home office featuring his personal collections. That in and of itself is awesome. That if you can find just that on YouTube and watch that, that's so cool. You basically get to see like his home office, which is just the Bleak House. He's got statues, posters, sculptures, um, figurines. He's got all kinds of awesome, cool stuff in there that are like all like horror movie and sci-fi related, and you can see all of his inspirations in there. You can see all of it. That's the one thing I love about Del Toro is you can tell that he loves cinema because of the way he talks about it, because of the way he makes it, and all of those things. And he wears all of that outwardly, and he shares all of that with us openly. That's kind of awesome. And then the next year we have interviews with Del Toro, cinematographer Guillermo Navarro, and actors Ron Perlman and Federico Lupe. Um, yeah, this is if you don't have this already on Blu-ray, definitely buy it. If you have it on Blu-ray and you want to upgrade it to 4K, then get it. I'm not going to stop you. Not going to stop you. It'll go along with the other 4Ks that they're putting out with Del Toro films. Like I said, The Shape of Water is coming out this week. It's coming out tomorrow. It's definitely something I want to get. Next, we have the movie Performance. This is an interesting release for several reasons. Several reasons. Let's get a little animated here, a little handsy animated. So Performance already has a Blu-ray release put out by Warner Archive. It was put out by Warner Archive a while ago. I think it was part of like maybe their first crop of Warner Archive releases. Yeah, back in 2014. So 10 years ago. About 10 years ago was when we started to see Blu-rays be released through Warner Archive by Warner Brothers. And I keep bringing that up because this is a movie that's part of Warner Brothers' catalog. And Warner Brothers is notorious for not sharing their catalog with the boutique labels. For years, it's they've been releasing things themselves through the Warner Archive brand, or before the Warner Archive brand, they were doing it through their main Warner Brothers line of Blu-rays. That's why you could see certain early stuff like um not Gaslight, but you can see certain early stuff like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the one with Charles Lawton. That Blu-ray is from Warner Brothers. That's not a Warner Archive release. You can see things like Meet Me in St. Louis, uh, or Cabaret. Those were released through Warner Brothers mainstream. That wasn't released through Warner Archive yet. They re-released them later on as Warner Archive releases, but they were notorious for not sharing their catalog with other companies, with other boutique distributors. But slowly over the years now, they've come out of their shell. They've come out to play. They've just starting to share with other companies. Certain exceptions have been made over time, and I'm just speaking in general terms. But they're now really branching out. They have a distribution deal right now with Arrow Video, with Warner Brothers does. We've seen that happen already. I've got The Man from Uncle. The Man from Uncle, the Guy Ritchie film. This was a Warner Brothers film. There's a Warner Brothers logo right on the side. They've got a deal going on with them. They put out that double feature of Wrath of the Titans and Clash of the Titans, that remake from over a decade ago. So they're slowly kind of sharing things out. But to share with Criterion is nice to see. They did it also with Mean Streets. I believe they have Mean Streets. They shared Mean Streets with Second Sight. They shared Mean Streets with Criterion, the Martin Scorsese film. So we're starting to see Warner Brothers share around a lot. My working theory is that right now Warner Brothers is trying to make money any way they possibly can. If you're familiar with what's been going on over at Warner Brothers over the last few years, they've changed hands of ownership now for a couple of times over the last decade. Now they're in another ownership hands, and I think the regime that's there now is trying to make money any way they can, whether it's through canceling projects for tax write-offs, deleting things off of their streaming services for tax write-offs, selling their shows for distribution on other streaming platforms or other areas for money. They're willing to do that. And I guess now they're starting to sell out their catalog to the boutique labels. So we get Performance, and we get Mean Streets, we get other stuff going to other places. So there's a lot going on right now behind the scenes, I think, personally. Not just me just going off here, but Performance is an interesting film. So the grimy criminal underworld and hedonistic rock and roll counterculture of the late 1960s London collide in this mind-scrambling kaleidoscope freakout. On the run from his vengeful boss, a ruthless gangster portrayed by James Fox hides out in the Notting Hill home of a reclusive rock star portrayed by none other than Mick Jagger and his companions Anita Pallenberg and Michelle Breton, who open the doors of his perception as the lines between reality and fantasy, male and female persona and self dissolve in a hallucinogenic haze. Built around Jagger's most magnetic narrative film performance, this visionary collaboration between enigmatic artist Donald Cammell and first-time director Nicholas Roeg is a daringly transgressive, endlessly influential journey to the dark side of Bohemia. And that's kind of what this film is. If you've ever heard of like Bohemia or Beatniks or something in that range, you know what I mean? If you've heard of like 60s like hippie culture or something like that, free love and drug experimentation and all that kinds of stuff from the 1960s, this movie is kind of a dissolution of all of that. Like, it kind of throws all of that in here. And it's fascinating to watch. It really is. It's tough to describe to people without you actually seeing it. Mick Jagger is very good in the movie, actually, as this kind of enigmatic, mysterious, ambiguous type of person. And James Fox, who gets kind of thrust into this world of like hallucinogenic drugs, of this blend of not only identity, but this blend of gender norms and things like that. It's a very interesting film. I think this film is obviously very powerful to today's world in terms of us, getting into all of those things as well. But yeah, it's an interesting film. It's not for everyone, but it's for me. It's at least for me. So what do we have here in terms of special features? Donald Camel, The Ultimate Performance, a documentary by Kevin McDonald and Chris Rodley. Influence and Controversy, Making Performance, it's from 2007, a documentary about the making of the film. The True Story of David Litvinoff, a new visual essay by Karen Pym, biographer of dialogue coach and technical advisor David Litvinoff. Performers on Performance, a documentary featuring actors James Fox, Mick Jagger, Anita Pallenberg, and others. The Two Cockneys of Harry Flowers, a program of the dialogue overdubbing done for the U.S. version of the film. Memo from Turner, a program featuring behind-the-scenes footage. Interesting. Interesting. Adam Schofield says, they're dipping their toes in boutique labels. Hope they do more of this. So do I. So do I. Warner Bros. Has such a rich, rich catalog of stuff. That they've been doing a pretty decent job of giving us over the years. They've been ramping up the Warner Archive stuff over the last few years now. I remember when we first started chasing labels was around the time we thought we were losing Warner Archive, and it's been a little up and down since. But right now they're putting out a lot of stuff with Warner Archive that I'm glad to see, and it's not only like back catalog stuff from the 30s and 40s and 50s. It's stuff from like the 90s and 2000s. Like it's things from relatively modern cinema as well, which is really cool to see. But with these boutique releases, I'm hoping we get some pretty deluxe stuff. Um, I can't wait to see what happens, especially the Arrow deal. The Arrow deal has me kind of super excited because I hope it's not just more modern stuff. I hope it is some deeper catalog things, but we shall see. We shall see. Let's see what else we got here. Speaking of seeing, that is Performance. It is directed by Donald Cammell and Nicholas Roeg. I'm a big fan of Nicholas Roeg's work. Insignificance is a movie that I recommend people checking out. It's a mind-boggling film. Insignificance, Bad Timing, The Man Who Fell to Earth. I know The Man that Fell to Earth already has a 4K out there, but I'm hoping Criterion re-releases it in 4K or gets the rights back and re-releases it in 4K. That's just me, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. We also have the movie Walkabout, which is very, very good. And then of course you have Don't Look Now as well. Next, we've got the movie Drugstore Cowboy. Now, I already have this movie on Blu-ray from Imprint. I got it a few years ago, and I was happy to because it was stuck on DVD for so damn long that I was just getting super antsy that there was never going to be a Blu-ray release, and now there's a 4K UHD release of it from Criterion. So we got an audio commentary featuring Gus Van Sant and actor Matt Dillon, the making of Drugstore Cowboy featuring interviews with Gus Van Sant and members of the cast and crew, new interview with Yeoman and actor Kelly Lynch, deleted scenes, and then there's an essay here by John Raymond. I really like this film a lot. This is when did this come out? 1989? 1989. Okay, so this came out in 1989, and this film is very much in my wheelhouse in terms of films that I really like. Gus Van Sant's dreamy, drifty, deadpan second feature, an addiction drama based on James Fogle's anti-biographical novel, captures the zonked-out textures and almost surreal absurdity of a life lived fix to fix. Swinging between dope-fueled disconnection and edgy paranoia, Matt Dillon plays the leader of a ragtag crew, also featuring Kelly Lynch, Heather Graham, and James LaGrosse, that robs pharmacies for pills, coasting across the 1970s Pacific Northwest while trying to outrun sobriety and fate, with a brilliant supporting turn from counterculture high priest William S. Burroughs and a lyrical feeling for the streetscapes of Van Sant's hometown of Portland, Oregon. Drugstore Cowboy cemented the director's status as a preeminent poet of outsiderhood. This movie is damn good. I cannot stress this enough. If you're into movies about the existential lost youth of certain generations or just in general, this movie's definitely for you. As this kind of synopsis poetically put it, it's this group of young people drifting in life, seemingly going nowhere. They're just like they're just kind of addicted to drugs and they're just looking for their next fix, and that's kind of all they're really concentrating on, if they're concentrating on anything. And the movie just has that exploration of that existential crisis. You know what I mean? It's the lost youth. It's and not knowing what to do, where to go, having no guidance in life whatsoever for various reasons. Perhaps the adults in your life were never really quite there to guide you. Perhaps they're not there now. Perhaps you have no guidance at all, and that happens with every generation. You see this lost youth. You see people go through these times in their lives where they're young and they don't know what to do with their lives, and there's nothing that is really there for them to hang on to, and they're just lost. And this film definitely captures that. Gus Van Sant um did films like that. I'm thinking of my own Private Idaho. I'm thinking of My Own Private Idaho. That captures that as well. And My Own Private Idaho is a masterpiece of a film. That's a film I think he did after this, and that movie is such a masterpiece. I'm a big fan of Gus Van Sant's work. I've got to get more of his stuff because for years now I've been wanting to do a video on Gus Van Sant's work. Recently, of course, To Die For just got a release. I have it here somewhere on the couch behind me, but I'm a big fan of all of his stuff. Of course, to me, one of my favorite films of all time, one of my top 10 favorite films of all time is um Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting for me is a film I watch that movie every year. I've watched clips of that movie every year. There was a time in my life where I watched that scene between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck at the construction site, where Ben Affleck tells him, I want to go to your house one day and you're just not going to be there. No note, no nothing. You just got up and left. Um, he's like, the best time is when I go from my car to your door in the hopes that you're not going to be there, because being here is a waste of your time. That scene, that screenplay in that movie is so mind-bogglingly good that it brings me to tears that movie's like that profound. Um, and maybe it's I have a little Boston bias. I live an hour south of Boston, so perhaps I do have that bias. But still, I think that movie universally for every generation, including the current one, is incredibly profound. In what it's saying about life's journey, and talk about lost youth and not knowing what to do and where to go, and how trauma can lead to a lot of that. What a damn good screenplay. Damn good movie too. So I really love Gus Van Sant's work. We have some more comments here. Drugstore Cowboy is great. Haven't seen it since release though. That's from Adam Schofield. Adam also says they have a hole in their car to drop drugs through in case of a bust. Well, you need to have a way out. You need to have a plan B. At least they got that. And then he also says Idaho and Drugstore would be a hell of a double bill. It really would be. One of my favorite parts in My Own Private Idaho, it's not really a spoiler here, is they do like a shot for shot remake of a scene from Orson Welles' Chimes at Midnight. And it's like a shot for shot scene. There's a part of that movie, part of the plot of that movie, that is Orson Welles' Chimes at Midnight. And as being a big Orson Welles fan, I thought it was brilliant to incorporate that into that movie. Yeah, I won't say what scene, I won't say how it connects, but it definitely connects. But yeah, Idaho and Drugstore Cowboy, great special feature. Great double feature. Heavy double feature though. That River Phoenix was a hell of an actor. A hell of an actor. But moving on to the last film we have to talk about here for Chasing Labels number 153 and for the Criterion slate is the last movie I got to watch. I watched this at 2 a.m. last night. People, listen to me when I say this. Do not watch this movie at 2 a.m. It's not the type of movie you watch at 2 a.m. This is the type of movie you watch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you're wide awake and ready to roll and when you've not been sick for a week. This is the type of movie to watch at that time, because what we got here is an avant-garde, surreal, art house, Terrence Malick at times-esque take of King Lear done by Jean-Luc Godard, put out by Canon Films. I say that as I look into the distance because all of those things sound like they don't go together, but they do in this movie. They do in this movie. So, Jean-Luc Godard's first English-language narrative feature is a radical anti-adaptation of Shakespeare's masterpiece that finds the visionary filmmaker continuing to reinvent the syntax of cinema. In a post-Chernobyl world where culture has been lost, William Shakespeare Jr. the Fifth, played by theater director Peter Sellars, attempts to reconstruct his ancestors' play, abetted by a cast that includes Molly Ringwald, Burgess Meredith, and Godard himself as a crazed avant savant. Through a dense layering of sounds, images, and ideas about everything from language to the economics of filmmaking to the very meaning of art in the ruined world, Godard fashions a puckish and profound metacinematic riddle to be endlessly analyzed, argued over, and savored. Yes, this movie is about as art house, as artsy, surreal, avant-garde as you can get. It's a deconstruction of the King Lear play, if anything. If you're not familiar with King Lear or with William Shakespeare's work in general, this movie is going to send you on a trip because you're not going to know what's going on because the movie doesn't have a lot of connective tissue. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. It's brilliant. It's mind-boggling. It's French New Wave-ish in the 80s. I'll be honest with you all. I haven't seen a lot of Godard post 1960s. So I was completely unaware of what his work looked like after like the 1960s and 1970s. And this is very challenging of a movie. Like this movie is something you watch in a film course, like a high level film course. It's something that you watch and like analyze and deconstruct and talk about um, and watch for the movie production, watch for the themes, watch for the acting and all this kind of stuff because he not only utilizes the play of King Lear, but he utilizes other literary works and incorporates that into the movie in dialogue and acting. And it's a brilliant movie, a brilliant, bold movie that is not for everyone. This is not for everyone. Adam Schofield here says, biggest mistake I made was drinking half a bottle of brandy and watching Hanukkah's Hidden at 5 a.m. I still have PTSD from it. I feel you. I feel you. That's a bit of a chore. For me, well, I don't drink or do drugs or anything like that. Cinema is my drug, really. Cinema is my drug and my alcohol. Watching Bergman films at 3, 4 a.m. like Persona or like Through a Glass Darkly or Cries and Whispers in the pitch black of night is a trip and a half. I remember watching Tarkovsky's Stalker at that time and going on a trip into another world, into another plane of existence. And sometimes cinema can do that for you. Cinema can take you to a place you never knew existed. And it's a heck of a feeling. It's a heck of a feeling. But you can't describe it to people. You really can't. You just kind of have to say it, and then hopefully one day they go on their own journey through surreal cinema and whatnot. It is wild. Um, yeah, it's some wild stuff, but this movie is wild. It's not quite Tarkovsky level because it feels so different than Tarkovsky. It feels so different than Terrence Malick. Um, Although it has shades of it, like the modern day Terrence Malick that we know, not like the old school Terrence Malick that was way more straightforward. I'm talking about like the art house Terrence Malick that we've seen now over the years, like To the Wonder Terrence Malick or Tree of Life Terrence Malick. That's what this Godard King Lear reminds me of. That broken, fractured version of that, but also there's something incredibly profound about it, incredibly brilliant about it, but you just quite don't know what it is. But let's see what the special features are before we get out of here. We have a audio recording of the 1987 Cannes Film Festival press conference featuring Jean-Luc Godard, new interviews with Richard Brody, author of Everything is Cinema, The Working Life of Jean-Luc Godard, and actor Molly Ringwald, and actor co-screenwriter Peter Sellars. And then that's it. So with all of that being said, man, that is it for Criterion. That is a heck of a release slate for February. We've got Chronos, Performance, Drugstore Cowboy, Crossing Delancey, and Jean-Luc Godard's version of King Lear. Uh, what a heck of a month that's going to be. Heck of a slate. Next year's already looking so good while we're closing out this year. Like I said before, there'll probably be one more episode, at least one more episode of Chasing Labels before the end of the year. In December. I'm not quite sure if we're going to be doing another unwatched pile. I have to talk about Steven with that. We'd have to work out, a time for that for next month. We're not quite sure yet. We just did our unwatched pile for Noirvember, so that is up here on the channel. You could find this podcast, of course, here on the Chasing Labels YouTube channel, as well as where podcasts can be found on Apple Podcast, Google, Spotify, etc., etc. You know where to go. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for joining me here. I'm going to close this out by saying happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is at the end of this week. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, just be thankful every day in life for everything you have or everything you used to have and all that kind of stuff. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a short time. So enjoy what you can while you can. And also, keep on watching those movies because I know I will.